means I just pressed go start, and so take that, you traitor!
Yeah, BlueStar. What are you gonna do about it?
Well,
Everyone, BlueStar Saber here once again for the Walky Talky podcast. This time I do not have a cold, so you can hear my voice properly now.
that's probably the closest thing to an actual intro we've had in months.
Really ducks again.
Well, Dux was here, but he said over and out and left, so I'm assuming he could only stay for a second. Yeah, I must go. I'm still working. All right. Well, welcome to the Walky Talky podcast, the podcast where we walkie while we talkie. Kamui, are you doing that the stream or?
I'm going to, yeah. I haven't started yet, but I'm gonna leave to do that in a minute.
I would love to do that if it wasn't raining outside.
It's actually honestly gonna be like low-key warmer than I would like for this, but I'm just gonna do it anyway.
Well, I
It's
took
like
a shower last night
80
anyway.
something degrees out.
Oh, that's not bad at all. Okay. Well, Naruto and or Boruto, since that's what the podcast is, if we wanted to do that.
Which I am open for, as I did read whatever topic you want. No, I did read like all Boruto chapters, so if you want my brief thoughts on
You might as well.
some
Well,
of the
what
things.
was your so where did you leave off at, like, before you caught up? Like, how many chapters did you just blitz through?
I think I got up to the chapter where Kamui and Boruto agreed to work together last time. I reread that chapter and then basically, I guess you could say, speed ran the whole.
So you basically
It's like 10 chapters.
done the whole
Land-
arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might as well just give us your thoughts on the entire arc then at that point.
Okay. In many ways, I see this as kind of being a sort of parallel to like the Kazekage rescue arc at the beginning of part 2, and this is like Boruto seems to be trying to parallel, or maybe at least imitate that, just because it's like we started with the fancy village with the ship at part 2 with Naruto, and we're doing the same with Boruto, sort of. Maybe just an arc too late. If
I mean, I can definitely see the
not
parallels. The most obvious, literal one, they're rescuing the Kazekage. It's the same person, too. It's Gaara.
The female character in the team gets a lot of shine.
And it's because of an other female sand character who is acting like a mentor figure almost.
Yeah, and you kind of also got an antagonist with the ability of Iron Sand.
True,
Yeah,
Ryu and the third Kazekage,
antagonist.
yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're basically doing the Kazekage arc, but much less interesting, if you ask me.
I got another one for you. Matsuri has been pretty explosive in her personality lately.
Yeah, just like Data. And Matsuri's the one. Ooh, that's the same person who kidnapped the Kazekage.
Matsuri and Datara both like died pretty instantly at the end of this arc as well, quote unquote. And so, since Sasori and Ryu, okay, if they are paralleling this, then Ryu is going to die here, and Matsuri is going to come back.
Yeah.
Arguably, probably for the best, but the biggest, because long-term having Ryu around means that you're not really using like the next-gen Sand Kid, because I think this is the biggest issue, I think, when I first saw that. It was not Gaara that became the divine tree monster, it was actually his adopted son.
Yeah, it should have been Gaara, but that's
because mostly because we haven't really had enough time to get invested in this character, because it's like, okay, there's the stuff in the filler, but manga wise, he's only really been in the first arc. Same with just generally all these next gen sand characters.
I'm not even going to give it that. I'm going to be honest. I'm not even going to give it that. Pinky has one page of like dialogue, and that's it. And then he's got one page of him beating Metal Lee. Araya and Yodo might as well not exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's like let's see, the manga despite the manga teasing something about Boruto and Gaara's adopted sons becoming maybe some friends or allies in the future, there's done nothing. I mean, it's like literally non-existent. At least with the Sand siblings, you had, at least depending on how you view the tuning exams and Invasion of Kona, 2 or 3 arcs of where you saw the Sand siblings as antagonists at first, but build up some relationships with the main cast, and then allies in the next arc, and then the allies helping each other again when Gaara is kidnapped by the Akatsuki. These characters, you don't really have that kind of long-term relationship. I mean, you could argue they were briefly allies in the One-Tail Shikaku arc, in the filler that led to that time slip arc.
Well, even then, it's just Shinky. It's not Orion. Yodo.
Yeah, but that one, to me, that filler arc seems more focused on, Shikaku and his relationship with Naruto's family, if you will. But yeah, so it wasn't really much to do with them there.
I do want to clarify, so other people aren't going to say that we're being unfair. We don't hate them because they've only been in the story for a little bit. Practically, the majority of characters, I would argue, are only in the story for one arc. The first arc of Boruto wasn't bad because Boruto was only in it for one arc. Every single movie isn't bad because it's a standalone, self-contained movie. Sasori was introduced and killed off in the same exact arc, but the difference in character between him and Ryu are night and day. You can write a fully fleshed out, a completed character arc within one single arc. Same with Chio as opposed to Yodo. It's about how you do it, not about how much you have or haven't been in the story before. Heck, even Tento was only in the Mujita Bandits arc, and he had a freaking awesome character arc, even if people hated him.
Well, that's where I was gonna say, what BlueStar was saying a minute ago about just the number of arcs they've been in is really just completely understating the difference, because obviously, yes, they just so happen to be in the tuning exams, Konoha Crush, and Sasuke Retrieval arcs, but it's obviously just way more than that. So in the tuning exams / Konoha Crush, in both cases, they just are okay, so technically the tuning exams, it's Neji's the main antagonist, but the Sand siblings are clearly primary antagonistic characters.
In the anime,
they are literally the antagonist. In the anime. The Sasuke Retrieval arc.
Oh, it's for Naruto. Never mind.
Huh?
Never mind. I thought. Never mind. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was worried I was losing connection or something because I just started walking. And then in Sasuke Retrieval arc, they're literally making a contrasting character arc type thing to where. So for Gaara, he's got the whole crazy Gaara stuff in Konoha Crush, and then Naruto basically teaches him, love is what makes him so strong, blah, blah, blah. And then you're kind of seeing the payoff of that in the Sasuke Retrieval arc, how Gaara's, moving forward his new goals because of that. And then Conqueror and Tomorrow are kind of just alone for the ride for the most part. They're not really the focus or anything. But the point is they're not just there, they're there. And they're doing narrative with it. Orion, if you want to pretend Shinky was just in all these arcs, it's not like they did anything with it narratively. Yeah, he's in the tuning exams. What was his narrative? In the Boruto manga, especially. What is the narrative they're doing? They're not doing anything. Might as well not exist.
I think my problem with these characters in comparison to other characters that are only around for a short while, even Kimimaro, he was throughout Naruto, but he didn't really have a role to play until Sasuke Retrieval, and he's my favorite character of all time. So I mean,
even then though, but he wasn't even in the other arcs. They just they gave you the flashback. It wasn't actually anime only, but they gave you flashbacks showing you hey, he's been there with the Orochimaru through XYZ steps.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you actually got into one up.
Kimimaro, you saw he was a devoted servant of Orochimaru, and he's basically the reason, the retrieval team lost their one chance of bringing Sasuke back just when they finally caught up with the Sound 4. He stalled Naruto for a bit, let's see, it took him to like Rock Lee to arrive before Naruto could go and save him, and then he would have killed Lee if not for Gar's arrival. And the only reason he died in the end is because of his illness. Is that is the fact that he basically he was ill and he would have killed Gar if not for that. And even when he's dead, there's still a bit of a legacy to the character because apparently he was the one person that could contain the rampage in Jugo and had quite the effect on him. That the reason why Jugo followed Sasuke was because, well, let's see, Kimimaro saw him as a sort of successor. So there's at least legacy with like Kimimaro, even if there's just one arc. Granted, I think he was completely wasted in the Fourth Great Ninja War, and I would have liked at least maybe a rematch between him and Rock Lee.
You'll like some of our rewrite streams on
that. Yeah. But what you're saying? Least, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So like at least give some merit to Rock Lee's hard at work effort, if you will. At least defeat one opponent he lost to. But go on.
What you're saying about Kimimaro, though, I think you're really hitting the nail on the hammer there because, yeah, he was a devout follower of Orochimaru. He had a role to play, and the author knew what that role was, and Kimimaro played that role to its highest extent. It was very refined in that regard, but on top of that, they built character. You compare that to other characters who are just random Orochimaru followers. Compare Keen to Kimimaro, and again, it's night and day because Keen just feels shallow because, yeah, whereas she's a follower of Orochimaru and she's her own person, there's a very just clear, distinct difference between the two. I would point to, and Kamui, you know what I'm trying to get at when I say this, Final Destination 5, who the characters in that movie were set apart from the first 4 Final Destination movies, to where the first 4, they're mostly just stereotypes with a little bit of character maybe here and there, but mostly just stereotypes. In Final Destination 5, they're way more refined. They introduce what the stereotype is immediately, but then they build the character on top of that, and they just know who these characters are and the role that they're supposed to play in the movie. That's what Kimimaro is compared to Keen. That's what Chio is compared to Yodo, and that's what Sorcery is compared to Ryu.
Well, even then, though, so obviously, like, if you were to pick, like, the least interesting sound ninja, you're probably either going to pick Keen, Yoroi. I'm not going to say Mizumi because his ability was just that cool. But that being said, though, I'm going to point to Keen specifically, though, because that's what you're talking about. Whereas, yeah, but Keen's not trying to pretend to be anything more than she is. What is Keen? She wasn't really a character, but she was a role. And I don't think that's necessarily entirely a problem. Like, what is her purpose? Her purpose is to, just fill up the team, the sound team, and be a bad sound evil person that pushes Sakura in the forest of death. And that's basically the end of Keen's role, as well as to be like an Orochimaru sacrifice thing. But
also,
Keen just did her role, and they didn't pretend. They didn't try to do do you remember this character who didn't mean anything 10 years ago? Yeah, oh wow, but you know that it's so important. You should be so attached. Oh, you better be tear jerking when she dies. They're not the story's not trying to make you think Keen is worth more than she actually is. It's just Keen's just there for her role. And she does her role, and there wasn't anything more to it, and that's fine. But I feel like to some extent, with the Araya Yodo Shinki, they are just trying to abuse, hey, you know these happen to be Gar's like team. And you know that you remember when they were in that one page in the tuning exams or the Boruto movie. And I think they're trying to like overuse that rather than, because for example, Chio comes out of nowhere, but they don't just say, oh yeah, you remember this one page of Chio in chapter 1 that you didn't even realize was actually Chio. Oh wow, she's so important. No, they're just giving you Chio's character, and they're like going all out. They're just going all out, introducing you to Chio, getting to know her, and fulfilling her role. Whereas you can say they did that. I'm not going to say that. That 1-2 page flashback of Araya getting a sword and Yodo standing at the bottom. I'm not going to say that's introducing you to Yodo. Like, it's not. Yeah. You're not getting to know Yodo. You're not getting to know Araya or Shinki. It's like the most bare bones. It's as superficial as Himawari's pancakes. It's like, why should I care? That's my thing with that.
I think so. The reason that I chose Keen as opposed to Yoroi is because that's in contrast to Kimimaro, who not only had his role to play, and he played it perfectly because the author knew what role that was and allowed Kimimaro to play it, but the difference between Keen and Yoroi is I would say Yoroi is just a blank canvas. He has absolutely no character at all. We know nothing about Yoroi. He is only there to play his role. He is not a character, just a role person. As opposed to Keen, she plays her role perfectly, just like Kimimaro does. But unlike Kimimaro, who's oozing character, Keen, in my opinion, doesn't have no character. She's like at the bottom of the scale to where she is still a character, just like the smallest extent of character that can be, as opposed to Yoroi, who just isn't a character
you can
at all.
say that, but honestly, I think she is pretty comparable to Yoroi. Because if you're going to play that game, okay, Yoroi is all butthurt about Kabuto being number one, the Orochimaru sidekick, and he seems to want something to prove. And now you're like, okay, well, that's something, even though they don't go anywhere. So I feel like him and Keen are pretty interchangeable. But in comparison to Zaku, who you get that flashback, you know why he's devoted to Orochimaru.
Yeah.
Dosu, you don't really know why he was there in the first place, but you get character with him with this whole like feeling betrayed aspect. So like they're actually giving you character for them. But
yeah, I feel like he just had personality, and
it might as well be no character. Out of all anything is going to be expecting something.
Of all those sound genin or spies, if you will, at the beginning of the tuning exams, I feel like Dosu is the one that had the most potential for character.
Oh, absolutely.
We agree. Orochimaru, but it's just kind of
you look who you're talking
to. It's a shame. I mean, I've sometimes wondered what could have been done with the character. The only thing I could think of at the time is maybe if Sakura won her fight against Ino, and you could have had maybe a rematch between her and that sound genin, maybe. Or something. But
honestly, I think there's infinite things you could have done. I mean, like, I'm the biggest Dosu fan on the platform, and like, I'm not asking for much. I'm basically asking anything but what they did in the end.
Yeah, or maybe even just like be an antagonist to Sasuke at some point. I don't know, but yeah, in part 2. But yeah, that's just all I can think of.
BlueStar, I don't think you understand how bad Kamui's obsession with Dosu is. Kamui, do you want to reveal what we got you for Christmas?
He gave me a Dosu little action figure.
Wow,
and a Dosu coffee mug.
I know. It's like I can't believe you found that.
That's quite impressive for a very minor villain.
I mean, Dosu's probably my number one quirky character. So, like, for example, Uodie and I's favorite characters are Kimimaro, but like Oodie also really likes Soigetsu. I feel like Soigetsu, like that's like Dosu for me. It's just that quirky character we just really like.
Yeah. If anything, Suigetsu's the opposite, to where he's only character and doesn't have any role to play ever.
Yeah, actually, he literally has zero role.
Let's see. It is interesting because I'd say for Suigetsu, I feel like he could have been the perfect foil for someone like Sai in the terms of Team Yamato versus Team Taka dynamic, if you actually put to it, because Sai's comes from like the root and Suigetsu from the blood mist.
Yeah.
Actually, that's interesting, but also, now that you mentioned Oodie, it's actually wow. So obviously Sasuke has a role, but so I guess who's the only member of Team Taka with literally zero role, really, other than I guess you want to say his big water blob thing in the bee fight. But like Kari is there to be the sensory person. She does things with that. Jugo gives Sasuke senjutsu in the war arc, and he saves Sasuke's life like directly. What's Suigetsu do?
As much as I absolutely love the water blob thing against Killer Bee, that's not a role. That's out of desperation, just trying to do anything. It wasn't planned. It was just him doing what he can do in that moment spontaneously.
I wish we got to see that water blob again, though, because that's actually pretty crazy.
I know, it's so cool. Okay.
It feels like a very powerful jutsu, but yeah, if it's the size of a biju, but yeah. Anyway, I suppose back on. So going back to the Boruto topic, so it basically got this arc basically being a Kazekage thing. Let's see. That's the only thing I can tell about these. New Sanjan is that Gao's adopted son is extremely loyal to him, so much so he doesn't seem to notice that his female teammate has feelings for him, at least from what I'm implying. And the masked dude who looked like an armor in part 1, now I don't know what the heck his design is in part 2.
Randomly covering his eyes.
Yeah, he seems to have a thing for the female teammate, sort of doing a San Genin love triangle similar to, like, you know, Team 7 and Naruto.
Yeah.
That seems to be the only kind of characterization you have, though. The masked dude guy, I can't remember his name, and the girl seem to have a bit of bickering with each other.
Honestly, okay, I hate to say this, but so assuming Yodo is officially dead, because technically some of the Japanese implies that maybe she's not necessarily confirmed dead, but in this they just straight up say she's dead. So assuming she is dead, I hate to say it, but what's the point in the love triangle anyway? Because let's be honest, they didn't do anything with that. Yodo is dead, so she can't end up with either of them. You can say, oh, Yodo's love for Shinki led to her being irrational, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's fine. But what's the point in Araya liking Yodo? They did nothing with that. So, I mean, what's the point?
If this romance was a bit more established, it could have been more tragic that one or the other witnesses her dying or like they caused it, but no. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Araya barely had a reaction. He's not even crying.
Yeah, they could do something later in the arc, like maybe Araya and Mitsuki. Araya talks to Mitsuki still. That could still happen. But like you're saying, it's too late now. It isn't just that Araya is being held by Ryu-san, so he physically can't have a reaction to Yodo's death or anything like that. No, he's freed and he's just continuing on with this mission. Imagine if Obiso saw Rin die. He's just like, all right, but back to Kanabi Bridge. Let's go finish that mission, Kakashi.
Exactly. It's just like, Mitsuki's like, go take Ryu's Thorn Soul back to Shinki. And Araya's just like, got it. Just...
Yeah. Anyway, also, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Yodo, right? It's the character's name, turns out to be alive, because it's like,
yeah, they did with
you rarely get a shonen kill off the young cast. It's usually at best minor or mental characters that you see die.
The thing is, Araya, if Yodo just is dead and Araya just knows that, Araya literally contradicts the core of Naruto. Remember, Naruto is about humans versus tools. Which one are ninja going to be? But what does Zabuza tell us? Because Araya isn't just choosing to be a tool. He's going against what the series foundationally taught us. At the end of the day, no matter how much they try to pretend otherwise, shinobi can't be tools because they are humans.
And it's one thing if they have a character like Araya try to do it, but you usually have them portrayed as either the antagonist or just someone who's not necessarily the antagonist, but this aspect is antagonistic. So, for example, Koji, he's not necessarily the antagonist, but in terms of this very specific conflict, him versus Boruto, he's the antagonist in this regard. They're not presenting Araya as being the tool guy or in the wrong or anything of that matter. It's just like the story's pretending he's not doing this when he just objectively is doing it. For example, though, in the anime, Shinki versus Boruto, so they show, like, no, they try to imply that Shinki is very caring, but he's basically trying to be a tool. And Boruto and him are butting heads over it. They're doing something with that. But again, Araya, no, he just is being a tool. I think Ikimoto doesn't even realize it.
Like, is he more mentally strong than Zabuza? Because Zabuza's like, or at least I have failed. Okay, so Zabuza failed, but Araya succeeds, so he's more of a ninja than Zabuza. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, the demon of the hidden miss who massacred his entire academy class. Yeah, like Araya's better at swallowing his emotions than that guy. That's just ridiculous. Nobody in this generation, objectively, minus like the one exception maybe, should be as good as people like Zabuza, Itachi, and so on, because they weren't raised with that mentality.
Yeah, it's the era of
Shinki
peace.
is kind of an odd one out. He's just is kind of that way, or he's trying to be. but he's like the odd one out. Like Gaara shouldn't be, as far as we like to believe, he shouldn't be over here acting like the Blood Mist Village in this era, because not only would Gaara be opposed to that based off his own childhood, but they're in the era of peace. So they don't need to be acting this way.
Especially when we see Araya's character in the anime from part 1. He's like the sniveling coward, basically. Like he's the most pompous kid ever.
That's why he's the puppet master, because he's too shy to be there in person.
Yeah. Like he wouldn't survive in Naruto's generation.
So like then I'm asking, okay, what happened over the time skip? You know they're not going to address it though.
It's just nothing. He's retconned into being a completely different character, which is the problem, because they're not giving these characters an introduction as if we're meeting them for the first time, when we are, unlike Chio and everyone else.
They're treating them as if we know them super well. They're treating them like the same way that we don't need an introduction for Temari and Kankuro at the beginning of Shippuden, because obviously we know them. They're treating it like that, but they're contradicting the character that we do know from the anime entirely, and
not just not in the manga at all.
Exactly. So it's just like,
and so then that becomes a problem, because then that's why we point to the manga to say, oh look, they've only been in the Chunin exams for these like 2 panels. Well, why are we even saying that? Because that's what we have to point to, because the manga's making us do that. Because we have nothing else to point to for an introduction. It wouldn't matter if they've been in the manga for 2 panels before this in the shooting sense, if they introduce the characters here, because then we wouldn't be forced to point to that.
Exactly.
Sad Boy is saying, is this the Kodachi hate squad?
Yes.
No.
Oh, no, like not Kodachi.
Because again, though, there's nothing wrong with Kodachi not really writing the characters there, because you know why? Because Kodachi wasn't writing those characters. Now you could say, oh, it would have been nice if he did, make them part of the story, whatever. That's a fair critique. But it's not that he just isn't writing the characters. They're in the Chunin exams simply because, well, it just makes sense for there to be stand people in the Chunin exams. And that kind of just is the end of the story. He did leave room for their return narratively with that the one conversation Shinji has. He did leave room for that, for them to return at some point, to whatever that's going to be. But the problem that we have with Ikimoto in this case is that he's over relying on nothing and pretending it was something, essentially.
Can I also add the opening hook, whatever you want to call it, the prologue going into this, of seeing Matsuri versus Gaara and the kids' reactions also doesn't count as anything. That's like your first look.
It's really just shaky. They don't do anything there. They're just in the ball silent.
Yeah, that's not an introduction. That's like a movie where you're just showing the characters for the first time before later you take their mask off physically.
Anyways, it's like what if Kishimoto had... It's like, what if Kishimoto had Team Guy just trapped in the water? And when they're fighting Kisame, you didn't see anything of what they were doing before when fighting him.
Yeah.
That's their introduction.
Like, how I'm imagining it... Think about the Naruto movies, specifically the first 2, Clash in the Land of Snow. The parts with the girl on the horse, that's not her introduction. That's you having a hype moment going into her introduction. Naruto movie 2 with Temujin, he's fighting Naruto with this mask on, but he's not saying anything, or it's just fighting Naruto, and that's not his character. You get that afterwards when you introduce the character really from the first time.
More examples. So what I would consider the difference would be the character's debut versus introduction. So for example, Itachi and Kisame, when you first see them at the end of episode 80 or 81, it's one or the other. They're just like, this is the Leaf Village. Oh, you look sad. I don't have feelings. Okay, that's their debut. That's not their introduction. Their introduction's when it's not the cup shop place either. It's when they're talking to Asuma and Kurenai, and then they're like, Itachi Uchiha. He does the shirt hand thing, and then Kisame's like, well, I'm Kisame Hoshigaki. I'm the monster of the Hidden Mist, blah, blah, blah. That's their introduction.
Good point. Okay.
Separate from their debut.
That's probably better to point to since it's actually in the story, since some people haven't seen the movies.
Yeah.
Part 1, story 2.
Because I don't know what you're referencing with your movie one.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the antagonists, from what I can tell, he seems to be based off of, well, Shinji, but we don't know much about him, but he seems to be trying to give him some sort of character of being, like, playful with, like, the genin or tuning, if you want.
Well, interestingly, I'm guessing you haven't seen the interview thing, so we'll just tell you this. But so again, this is kind of a prop. This is interesting in of itself. It's a problem that the story's not doing anything today. But according to Ikimoto in an interview, they're asking like, hey, like, what are the Shinju's personalities based on? Because some of them act quite different. So for example, Ryu versus Shinji, Ryu's all goofy and all that, whereas Shinji's serious. So basically, his answer is that, like, because the Shinju are just born, they don't have like a societal influence to. Basically, they're not going to put up a front on their personality because there's nothing influencing them to do so. So Shinji tries to be strict because he cares about Gaara protecting him, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's trying to be strict, whereas Ryu doesn't have that. So he's basically saying this is kind of a hint to what Shinji's personality and in terms of nature would be. But with this nurture involved, you see what Shinji's like. But the thing is, they should have like a line about that. Like, for example, Arai can be like, this is what Shinji's truly like, or he reminds me of Shinji on his happiest days, or whatever the fuck they want to say. But they're not doing that. So, like, we're only getting this answer through an interview. Like, what?
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, in terms of his, I guess in terms of the fighting, I don't know. I'm not entirely. I mean, it's not the worst I've seen Boruto do, but I don't think it's anywhere near to the tier quality level you would get, like, if you were looking at Naruto. To be fair, I mean, I guess
I
props.
would say that about 99% of the fights, but
yeah. I mean, I guess props for having like Sarada, Mitsuki. Let's see the two Sand. Let's see Chunin or Genin, I guess, teaming up, I guess, against this antagonist. Though it still feels like this is an attack. This still feels like you have, let's see, characters that shouldn't really be fighting against this. It's supposed to be this very powerful divine tree being. Really, I mean, I don't really get the whole power scaling thing because it feels like you need at least some sort of like sage mode thing to like fight them at least.
Don't even get us started on the power scaling. Okay, we hate that this arc. It just doesn't make sense at any point.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that's the power scale. I suppose, I guess props, I guess, to giving Sada a moment with the, I guess, manga Kyo Sharingan moment, I guess. Granted,
well, even that,
we
have power scaling problems with it.
Yeah, though granted, I feel like it's like, this seems to be like a more powerful version of Koami with whatever it's been named. I mean, when it first came out, I think maybe people was like, wait, is this Kuami or something? Kamui or something? Not Kamui here, but you know.
It's like Orihime or whatever.
Yeah. Let's see, which apparently is some sort of different name that I think the Atamatsu god had or something.
Yeah, the god.
Yeah, it's like another name for Amaterasu.
Yeah. So, something like that. I suppose props to giving Sada a moment. I'm not sure if this is going to be the last sort of fighting moment she has at the very least. I mean, let's see. I suppose Sada has one advantage of having a bit more to do in terms of action, at least, than whatever Sakura got, unfortunately, after the post-Kazekage arc, because I think the biggest problem I say Kishimoto did with that was not building up a long-term antagonist for Sakura, say, like with Naruto, let's see, you had Pain and Sasuke Itachi, and then later Danzo and Obito, if you will. But that's a topic for another day.
Well, I mean, Sarada obviously has Hidari, but even that, like, I'm curious what you think about this, but like, so I don't really like what they've done with Sarada versus Hidari, because I feel like anything it felt like they might have been setting up narratively there, they just didn't do. So, for example, Hidari asked Sarada, "Who are you?" That could have been like a similar to Pain, "How would you confront hatred in order to create peace?" thing. Sarada doesn't give an answer, but she doesn't, when she literally has her identity awakening moment, she doesn't think back to this whatsoever. She just, it's like the question didn't mean anything to her. She didn't care. She wasn't even listening. So it meant nothing. And her Homunculus awakening moment No, it's not when her, she's winning her dad. It's when she's winning, Ryu, the guy that she's never met. It's just like...
Yeah, it's because Yodo talked to her. Let's keep in mind, the reason that she's feeling, like, self-conscious or whatever is because she wants to protect Boruto, so it's about Boruto, and it's also because of what Sumire said, so it's about Sumire. Both Boruto and Sumire were there in the Hidari fight, who is Sasuke, her dad, as opposed to the Ryu fight when none of them are there. Just move all that earlier. Especially because Boruto just had that talk to her in, like, chapter 7 or whatever. You can just go into this based off of that.
Exactly. That's why I said, like, I think that they could have and realistically should have just taken most of the narrative beats of this arc and put it in last arc, which we can make claim of last arc. If I ask you guys, what is the... Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples. Land of Waves. What's the thematic question? What is a shinobi? Are ninja tools, or are they human? Konoha Crush. What is true strength? Is it fighting for yourself, fighting for others? Chunin exams, can you overcome your destiny? Blah, blah, blah. Okay? You get the idea. You can ask a question about any arc. What would you say the Jura Hidari invasion arc? What is the thematic question of that arc? If you had to pick something, let everyone answer.
Why does Himawari think about pancakes?
It's an actual answer.
Okay. To double check the question, it's what is the point of Sarada versus Hidari's thematic thing, right?
Not just that, just
the whole arc
overall.
You could maybe have it spin off of Kurama's preconceived biases as much as we meme that. That might apply everywhere in that arc. I'd have to like go back and double check how I would apply it.
Doesn't move forward.
I mean, I would have to go back and double check what's said and how it applies everywhere, but that's what I would point to probably.
Oh, Mr. Spiling wants to join the podcast thing. Let's see. He's been asking about that. So let's see. I don't really know where is. I guess Ikimoto's going with Sarada and this whole Hidari thing, and I guess even you could say like,
thank you.
This thing with like yes, with this manga kill thing. It seems like he's trying to do a sort of more power of love kind of thing, and that her admitting that she likes Boruto, because it seems that it was like they're doing some sort of like building up of Boruto, Sarada, and class rep love triangle, if you will. But
typical.
Let's see. I don't really know long term if Sarada and Boruto are going to end up being together, though I don't really care too much about their role.
Things. But go ahead. As a continue what you were saying. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. Let's see. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to more of the topic at hand with Sarada. I think the whole love thing is that Ikimoto doesn't really know what to do with Sarada with like the whole Hokage thing. So he's having a focus on that, as well as I'm gonna try to build some sort of like plot line with her trying to rescue and so maybe surpass her father. I'm not sure if that's gonna go down with the whole Hidari and Sarada thing. I mean, it's got potential, but I don't know. It might be that Boruto ends up saving her from that.
You know what could happen?
What's that?
We're going. You know how you were saying that Ikimoto doesn't know what to do with Sarada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I would not be surprised if they did something along the lines of Naruto comes back from prison, whatever, right? Naruto and Hinata come back to the dimension. Naruto nearly dies, and Sarada saves Naruto, and Naruto sees Hokage him and Sarada, or some bum crap like that, and then that's I think how, or like some sort of Hokage he senses in her, or sees in her. You know, like how like Kakashi sees Minato behind Naruto and stuff like that, right? Something along those lines, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went down that route. Just so they can make a excuse of why she become Hokage.
Maybe. I mean, other than that, I think Rock and Alice said, let's not forget Sarada's new working outfit, and the fact that somehow Naruto has schoolgirl outfits and none of the things culture-wise to have such clothes. I will admit, the one thing I would say criticism when it comes to Sarada's fighting is that no matter what position she's in, her shoulder thing is always down on one bit, and the thing is like, it seems a bit ridiculous. But yeah. Anyway, other things are my thoughts on this arc. I mean, okay, props. I guess Sarada getting a fight, but I don't know. I will say this. I'm a bit surprised that this Boruto arc is basically confirmed that Konohamaru and Moegi is some sort of thing. Because from the way I was
the interview capitalizes on it because we were saying earlier it's possible, it technically still is, but it's possible, it was possible at least, that Matsuri basically uniquely developed feelings for Konohamaru based on something within Moegi. So for example, Moegi like cares about Konohamaru, but like hypothetically, it could have just been as friends. Whereas for Matsuri, it just veered into romantic, or maybe she just misunderstood, and so on.
Wait,
but the interview
do you have an
made it seem
example
like
of that?
no, that's just Moegi's true feelings, and she was just hiding them.
Wait, so you think, do you believe the interview, or do you think it's the other way around?
So say that again, sorry.
Do you believe the interview, or do you think it's the other way around? Like what you're saying,
No,
like,
I
it may
believe
be
the
friendly.
interview because the interview answer was one of the two possibilities, and he just is basically saying it's that one. So
yeah, I mean, Konohamaru even fumbling, bro. That guy's like 28, right? And no girlfriend. Fumble, bro, fumble. Absolutely fumble. You know how he fumbled that girl in the freaking like filler, bro? In anime, that's
how much Konohamaru likes Moegi, by the way. He likes her so much, he was going to go smash some stranger.
And from my understanding, some thought that the anime was implying Konohamaru and Hanabi or something, because I know some.
No, actually, if you want to go by the anime, he already had a girlfriend. Do you know who it is? Oodie, would you like to give the answer after they guess?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Oodie, you have to know the answer, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Konohamaru's girlfriend, you said?
Yeah. Who is Konohamaru's girlfriend?
Well, there's multiple.
This was
things
your
that
topic.
come to mind.
Okay, I'll just answer.
Oh, I remember.
Way.
Okay, yeah, no, okay, I remember. Okay, you don't have to say it. Okay.
His girlfriend stated in the anime, he doesn't need
Really?
Moegi. He already has a girl.
About what you mentioned. Let's see. I think Draco and Rock and Alice would like to join the podcast.
But we already have like 7 people in here, so we do need to like keep it tame.
Yeah,
that's fair.
There's a lot. Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes.
I'm not going to be here long. I just wanted to ask you a question, and then I'm going to head out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Ask you.
Okay. Well, for starters,
Yeah, for real. Also, Drago, sorry for interrupting you before, bro. My bad, bro. My bad.
I suppose. Oh, sorry, what?
I was saying Drago. I left already. But yeah, sorry about that, bro. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Anyway, we should probably go back to the topic of like this current Boruto arc, which is what I've been talking. Which I mean, Ood and Kamui have been asking my thoughts.
See, I feel like I had a suspicion that Ood anytime now would say that fillers are actually canon. They didn't say that, so I'm actually quite surprised.
I mean, I was thinking it. If that makes you feel better.
I feel like no, but wasn't it? Was Sage, did Sage of six calves like change your perspective?
No.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. Sage of thick calves has pretty boring videos. No disrespect to you, bro. I've never actually got interested in your videos. Maybe it's because you came out earlier, but with all due respect, my friend, not really interesting.
Saber, was there anything else about this, like last chapter?
Oh yeah, let's see. Onto the actual chapter itself, because I think I've given my thoughts on the arc so far. Now, basically, this chapter, from my basic understanding, it's basically a follow-up to where Boruto's been told that he cannot intervene in this battle because if he does, Jura will arrive, and this is basically the standard. The hero goes in before he is ready sort of situation, facing the main antagonists, which we see that with Jura entering the thing, looking for Boruto straight away. I suppose you get like a bit of a moment with Konohamaru and Boruto, which I assume is going to lead up to Konohamaru long-term trusting Boruto again, despite the fact that he's still under the effects of omnipotence, if you will. Which is, okay, that's fine, I guess, though it took him long enough. But at the moment, of course, both Matsuri and Misitsuki and Ryu are both in their bulbs. I assume only I assume at the very least Moebi's divine tree will be saved.
Oh yeah, actually, okay, real quick, we could just stop there for a moment because I didn't want to ask this. So you have 4 options. So when it comes to Ryu and Matsuri, you can either have what do you think will happen, and then what do you think, what do you want to happen? What do you think's best? So you can either have both Ryu and Matsuri saved and they get rebuilt like Hidari, neither of them get saved, or only one. The 2 options are one or the other. So do you think it's going to be both, neither, or just Ryu, or just Matsuri who gets saved?
Okay, it's going to be either neither or both of them, because in Boruto, there's not another type of series to kill two important characters off, like kill one character off and leave one alive. Naruto's never been that kind of series for real, so it's probably going to be.
They kind of did that with the Kazekage rescue arc. Sasori died and Dedra survived.
That doesn't really count. These are important characters.
Why doesn't it count? They probably do this all the time. Only Hiruzen died, not Orochimaru.
I'm talking about two main characters that are very important to the story. That's a bit different, right? And in this situation, it's a bit different from the others. Someone could potentially die. We know we can save one of them. That's the thing. We can save both of them or one of them. But I think it's going to be probably both of them getting saved. But what are you guys' opinion?
I think long term, Moegi's divine tree, Mitsuki, I can't pronounce the name. Matsuri. I think she will survive long term just because there's probably still stuff you can do with Konohamaru and even, I guess, the new Team 10 down the line. But I feel like there's not much you can do with him, because it's like, unless you bring back Gar, I guess. But I guess it's like, you probably want to more focus on this new character, Gar's adopted son, really, since it's supposed to be Boruto next generation kind of thing.
I don't like him.
So I think Ryu will probably be more likely the one taken out, as at least to give the cast some level of victory, I guess, just because of he's the more disposable of the two. So I think that's going to be the case.
One thing I want to say, did you guys see what that guy in general said in chat?
Who, Jonathan Oliver?
Paradox.
Oh.
He said, I know I'm super against Naruto. I'm super against Naruto characters dying. Low key, I want a Shibuya incident type arc in Boruto. Just effing kill all of Konoha 13, all of Kakashi's generation. Have everything ramped. Why? Because it's effing hilarious. What are you guys' opinion on that?
I mean, it's basically what the pain arc
write
was.
the characters first.
It doesn't count. You're wrong.
I am curious, BlueStar, what your first impression was when you first saw Ryu and Matsuri's behavior at the beginning of this arc, with Ryu just saying goofy words despite his serious demeanor and appearance, and then Matsuri just the insane level of blushing as she can't control herself around Konohamaru. What was your first impression when you saw those?
Ryu, I thought, okay, they're trying to add a bit of character to this divine tree. For Matsuri, well, I was already spoiled about this long term, I guess, because social media when the chapter was coming out at the time, it's so Moegi and Konohamaru was going to be a thing kind of thing. So it's I wasn't too phased by it, but I will admit I'm a bit surprised by just how much there seems to be strong levels of fangirling, if you will.
Yeah.
That she has over Konohamaru.
And boring as well.
Let's see. And I guess I never really noticed, apparently, that Moegi called Konohamaru-chan, because...
Yeah, so about that, in Viz, this does mean the same thing, basically. But in Viz, in part 1, in that scene, she says Konohamaru-chan, but Viz does it as Lil Konohamaru. And Ada specifically points out, Lil Konohamaru, childhood friend, huh? But it is Konohamaru-chan. They just translated it differently.
Okay, fair enough. This is the only one I've ever seen use the term Chan was Naruto always referring to Sakura as Sakura-chan.
Yeah.
Let's see, but yeah.
I still think Naruto. I'm pretty sure Naruto calls Konohamaru-chan at some point in the anime.
Friendly, not too. Yeah, and it's just. I think it depends. Isn't it like sometimes it can be seen as friendly if you call someone Chan?
Yeah, I'm fine with the translation the way it is.
When Naruto's referring to Chan, I think he's referring to more romantic sense.
And he failed in that sense a lot. You failed in that sense completely. Naruto has 0 Riz, guys. No Riz from Naruto. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So, but yeah, I figured. Let's see. I was already spoiled about the whole Matsui thing blushing, though. Granted, I'm a bit surprised about what ticks her off as the whole Chan thing. Granted, I do like how Konohamaru does initially try to use what Shikamaru's advice is to take her out, but his own sort of, I guess, emotions got in the way, and of course that led to his sort of downfall in the fight. I mean, I guess it's nice, the manga is finally giving Konohamaru to do something, I guess. Even if it's some sort of, like, romance with, like, this tree divine thing based on your childhood friend, I guess. I mean, it's something, I guess, but,
I mean, when I first saw it... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, the first time I saw it, because it's just a complete 180 from how both Matsuri and Ryu had been presented up to this point at these serious, stoic, monster Ten-Tails entities. They're just like goofy or whatever. I was like bouncing off the walls laughing, like thinking this is the most absurd, crazy, ridiculous thing of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was just the Ryuri stuff, I could probably buy it a bit more, but I think it went a bit over the top with the Matsuri thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I still think the Matsuri Konohamaru stuff was arguably still, but at least some of the best parts of this arc by far.
But yeah. Other than that, let's see.
Well, on that note, I do want to ask, what do you think about these Ten-Tails genocidal monsters being referred to as like innocent, pure tailed beasts? Like they're little couplings. Oh, they could be good.
Ood, can I say something, Ood, if you don't mind? It reminds me of dolphins. You know how dolphins like super evil? You know how like very evil? Reminds me exactly of them because like they're all cute on the outside, but on the inside they're very evil. And the actions they do. So that's what it reminds me of.
I feel like it's the other way around for Matsuri. She looks kind of evil on the outside, but she was acting kind of cute on the inside until she started going crazy.
Well, especially
that just proves my point.
Especially taking it with this latest chapter to where Boruto's killing him callously, cold-heartedly, because he's only seeing them as just trees.
Because he's right.
I feel like this whole say innocent creature kind of thing is them trying to give them a bit of depth that isn't really there. I mean, they're not exactly the most engaging characters, to be honest.
Because Uzuhiko does not know how to write, bro.
I mean, I just fundamentally disagree with it in the first place. I don't think they're young, even. They were just, like, given their awareness, but they've been conscious because they just were the Ten-Tails. The Ten-Tails was an entity before then. They're not new. They know how to speak. They have memories. It's like it's like coming out of a coma as, like, a 30-year-old man when you were, like, a 20-year-old man before.
No, actually, though, I would like the series to try explaining the speaking English thing, because in the Chimera arc, they actually do address it. It's the fact that the like actual squadron leaders and beyond who could speak, they have lingering memories of when they were human, and that's how they learned to speak so fast. It's literally in the series.
And Jura is not coming from someone.
Because you can say, oh, it's the chakra, blah, 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 but Hidari doesn't have Sasuke's memories. He only knows Sarada and barely at that. So, how does he know how to speak?
Yeah.
I will say that I'd say the whole more innocent thing would have worked if these divine trees, instead of being copied for like Ten-Tails, of mix of like human DNA from certain characters, is that they were their own original creatures separated from like the Ten-Tails, like how the tailed beasts were. If it was that, I think it might be a bit more argue to work, but that's not the direction they took.
I feel like the only reason they added in this innocent cub aspect is because they needed it to be there for the Shikamaru backstab betrayal thing, which they needed for Konohamaru because he was going to waver when his heart fluttered because he's seeing Matsuri as Moegi. And so it's like reverse engineering to get to that. But I feel like you didn't need to do this for that.
Yeah, honestly, it could have been maybe better worded and it might have been a bit more tolerable, but I don't know. I think they just...
Yeah, because you hypothetically could have worded it as Shikamaru just being like, Konohamaru, I need you... Like, they're newly awakened, so people, they don't know everything we know, blah, blah, blah. I need you to just betray them, basically. Don't say, oh, they're innocent wild beast cubs, so you're going to do this evil thing. He could have just said... I'm not saying this necessarily is better, but he could have just been like, I need you to just try to befriend them. Pretend you hate Boruto too, whatever. And that you don't know what they are. And backstab them. Konohamaru's still gonna waver anyway, so.
I don't know why, like, they make them, like, everybody in the village treats them like people. Like, if I would have heard about them, like, from someone in verse, when you hear about them, I would have assumed, oh, so they're just trees that are copying our friends, right? So they're just copies. Yeah? Okay. Well then get rid of it. Kill it.
Yeah, they're not human. They might have Matsuri, it might have Moegi in her or whatever, but first of all, Moegi isn't in her. It's not like a fusion. Like, no, Moegi is in the village, in the tree coma, because Matsuri exists, first of all. And so you can just bring Moegi back. You don't need Matsuri. Second of all, they just are Tintels. You know, the parasite meant to cause world genocide because it wants to do that because it's evil. It's a monster.
True. That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. Konohamaru is delusional, bro. Delusional, blinded by love.
Yeah, remember in the War Arc when the Tintels made, like, fodder minion things and nobody had a problem killing those?
Like that's the thing, bro. Love makes you blind. Love makes you blind.
But it's not even love. Like, you're basically being told. Well, no, you're basically being told all of these are copies of the people, like, they imprisoned. They're not actually those people, for one. Two, they're a threat to the entire world, and we need to kill them now. While we have the chance.
It's beyond being a threat to the actual world, because hypothetically, if Kashin Koju is like, oh, hey, Boruto, well, in the future, Mitsuki accidentally destroys the world through his upgraded Sage Mode. Whenever he activated it, nukes everything. Oh, you gotta kill him despite him being a good guy. No, these monsters want to do it. That's different. They have intent purposefully behind their actions from the very beginning.
Yeah, and like you're trying to tell me everybody in the villages are soldiers. They're trained. You take your village first, obviously your friends and whatever not. But like you're trained to prioritize the lives of your own people. You're basically told these are a threat not just to you but to everybody. They need to go.
Yeah.
And Konohamaru basically pulls a Sakura when given Obito's eyes. All you have to do is just destroy them, and they choke. And I was just, why are you choking? You have no reason to choke right now. You know this isn't her. You know this is just a copy.
Yeah, so one thing you could argue, just in fairness for a moment, is that because they are essentially just copies, you could play into it that actually amplified the fact that they have humanity and that they don't deserve to die because, like, despite the fact that you're not Moegi, it's still wrong to just kill them. You could play into something like that.
No, it isn't.
That
I would kill them easily.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Sorry, my bad.
That's when it comes to Konohamaru faltering. This is where it's kind of okay. Like, I get it, but he's faltering because he sees Moegi in her.
Which is completely different.
The thing is, killing her is how you save Moegi. So it's not that he faltered because he was talking to Matsuri and he just genuinely liked Matsuri because Matsuri was just a chill girl who was actually pretty awesome and they both like Robin together, blah, blah, blah. It's not that he was like, I can't bring myself to kill Matsuri to save Moegi. It's that, oh my god, I'm killing Moegi, even though this saves Moegi. That's what they did. That's kind of the thing there.
I've got a question. Does Konohamaru know if he kills Matsuri, Moegi comes back?
Yeah, because he knows that the Soul Thorn will come back, and that you just put it inside.
he already knows.
Then
it makes no logical sense. Then it makes no logical sense that he's acting this way.
Because what Kamui's getting behind is, I completely agree with it. Let's just say Konohamaru and switched positions with everyone else to where it's like with Ryu or whatever. He's not going to be looking at Ryu as, oh, he has humanity, he doesn't deserve to die, and so my fundamental perspective ideology can't go against killing. No, the reason he can't kill Matsuri is not because of her humanity or because Matsuri doesn't deserve to die. It's because of his sentiment for specifically Moegi. And so it is it's purely on Konohamaru's end rather than anything on Matsuri's end. And so if you switch it to where, hypothetically, Sarada was just a bystander, third-person party member overseeing Konohamaru and Matsuri, she isn't going to feel the same way about not killing Matsuri because she doesn't, know that Moegi had these things with Konohamaru in the first place. She's not going to see what Matsuri is doing and think that's any justification or reason to live. The only reason Konohamaru is doing this with Matsuri is because he's associating it to his feelings for Moegi, and those feelings are real, and the feelings are coming from Konohamaru, not from Matsuri. Matsuri is just a reminder of his feelings.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it's inherently bad, but I do think if you were going to go the narrative angle about the Wild Beast Cup type thing, then you would just do the idea that Matsuri is Matsuri and she doesn't deserve to die, even if it's for Moegi, but that's not what they did. And it is interesting, at the very least, to point out that Konohamaru behaved the way he did, but Yodo, who obsessively loves Shinki, I guess, didn't. In fact, she was she wanted to kill Ryu more than anyone. The exact opposite of Konohamaru, which is an interesting thing.
She had the proper mindset that anybody, realistically in that world should have. This is a clone. This is not the person you love. Them existing is imprisoning the person you love. Okay, they gotta go.
Yeah. So that's it. Her approach is awful. Just actively giving him the cold stare and making it clear that you were her enemy. But besides that,
arguably the biggest flaw in that is that her bloodlust was so obvious to his senses that he was like, "Yeah, I'm not falling for any of this," and then was able to trap and
Well, keep in mind, but he's falling for it, quote unquote, afterwards, after he's already seen that from Matsuri.
He's delusional.
That's
He's not meant to. That's it.
The fact that, okay, I get that they've had peace, but you're trying to tell me a trained ninja wasn't, in one of the more brutal.
I'm okay with that because ninjas are human still. Konohamaru can't.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't grow up in Naruto's generation.
Between Yodo, Sarada, and Konohamaru, they are intentionally doing a thing to where, one way or another, love led them to have various mistakes. In Yodo's case, irrationally jumping in and falling for the trap. That was her flaw relating to love. Konohamaru wavering and hesitating to kill Matsuri because of his love for Moegi. That's the intentional flaw because of love. Sarada is a little bit unique in the sense that she starts off the whole love stuff with Boruto and Sumire's words is distracting her, causing her to make blunders early on, but then she uniquely overcomes it, and she's the one who destroys Ryu. So she's kind of the standout one there. But in all three cases, they are intentionally doing something with it, so I'm not going to knock that.
Honestly, when you look at the situation, it is really convenient that the worst possible set of people to encounter the trees are the exact people who were sent there.
I'm pretty sure that Koji did it on purpose. It's similar to Kabuto sending the Edo Tensei specifically where he did for the war arc, because it's the Jutsu of Regret. I'm pretty sure Koji's intentionally doing it like this.
Yeah, he saw the future, and this whole battle that was done was to make sure that Sarada would awaken her Mangekyo Sharingan. And use
but she already had.
Well, that's a whole other problem.
Well, that's a separate point.
Wait, how did she awaken it last time? Wait, how did she awaken it? Do we know how she
Naruto died.
She awakened it went basically after Omnipotence when she hears about Naruto sealed away, everyone's blaming Boruto for everything. She feels very bad for how everything's being pinned on Boruto. She wants Sasuke to help him, and she awakens it.
She's so mentally weak. She's so mentally weak.
She's a little depressed.
The worst unlocking ever I've ever seen.
Well, you know what?
I wouldn't say a little depressed. I would say it worked for a character.
Because I've been waiting for him to finally speak. We have a particular guest who surprisingly joined.
Let me talk.
Jonathan Oliver. Hello.
Hello. I'm here to discuss because there are so many things I don't understand.
Thank you for joining. All right.
I mean, not really longer because I have something, but I just wanted to at least to point out some things that just to know that the story is more a little bit complex than you know. Like you said that who is your name? BlueStar.
Yes.
I don't know. What is the conversation? What you were talking? You were talking about Matsuri Konohamaru. I thought you were talking about why the Shinju are just kind people, and that Ikimoto described them as a newborn baby.
Yeah, that was Oodie asking me a question, and he was giving me an answer, and I feel like this thing would have made more sense to me if perhaps they were, instead of being sort of divine trees with DNA of humans, that they were new creatures created from a split 10 tails like the tailed beasts. Mm-hmm. That would have, to me, make a lot more sense if they did it if for that description.
But they were like that, but what because when Code when Code split the 10 tails, he created an army. So
yeah, he created an army that they lost control of, and now is there. But it now seems to be their lackey. They seem to be their lackey.
Born, they I don't know if they have a consciousness, but they like you need to understand that in Boruto there's a dilemma. I say in English dilemma. There's dilemma. Sorry. So the Shinju are newborn person. So they are newborn. Like are human. When you are born, you are newborn. You are born in life. You didn't choose to be born. Shinju is the same thing. They didn't choose to be born. They are born. So when the Shinju, they try to understand why I'm here, because unlike the humans, when they are born, we are born with an society in a city, become in a city that it tells you what you need to do in your life. So when you are born, but you have to go to school. It's not you decide to go to school. It's the city, it's the society that trying to tell you that you have to do that. Same thing in Naruto. You are born, but you have to. Most people has to become ninja. When you are in family with ninja, you have to be a ninja, because the society tells you that you need to be like this. But in the Shinju, they are born, they are newborn. They don't have that society that tells you that. Only that maybe Jura, who is the most developed Shinju, who is trying to say that you are born, but you have your own instinct, you have your own will. You need to figure out what you want to be in life, or what you want to do in life. So Joy is just telling them to because you are still the 10 tails that you need to eat. You need to always follow that instinct that you are right now, that you need to eat. So that's why the Shinju is not that they like say you can consider the Shinju as a new race, like a new race of humans. Like code create a new race of humans. So
they're basically, I mean, they're just a new, like, just consider them a new evolved species of tentails that has these human traits. It's the same as the chimera ants, right? Like, it's really the same thing.
So they have the same thing. So, like I said new ways is that maybe like when Koji said in chapter 13 that you can Boruto, maybe you're gonna face 400 Shinju. That you can see that the Shinju can grow in population. Then if there's nothing to stop, they can erase the whole people or the whole humans in the planet. So that's why I can compare them to a new race, but it's not really a new race.
Yeah, I don't even think that's necessarily fair. We just don't know how it exactly works. As of right now, I believe that Matsuri doesn't have her own personality or traits or anything. I think she just has Moegi's chakra, and that's what separates Matsuri from a Clawgrime.
Maybe, but yeah. Maybe,
it's like if you removed Moegi's chakra, Matsuri's body might just revert back into a Clawgrime.
Or die.
Or die.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. It can
in terms of the chakra stuff, yeah.
They still know their fundamental purpose. They still know that they are Tentails. They were brought into existence fundamentally.
Well, except for Hidari. Hidari's just asking, what is your purpose?
But like
basically the divine trees are still
the divine trees are still divine trees. They're fundamentally made to eat energy. Like you can decide to do something else, like any of them can, but like they're trying to find their purpose. Like, you're a parasite. Your job is to be a parasite.
Yeah.
This isn't like a human this isn't like the ninjas in the villages where it's like you're born a ninja. It's like no, that's a job. You can choose to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not fundamentally what you are. What you are is a human. Yeah. But like the trees are the trees. That's fundamentally what they are. Like that can't be changed. They can't choose not to do that.
Going off of that, Jura isn't telling them what to do. He's not even telling them what to think. He's just telling them what they are, and they're coming to their own conclusions. He's allowing them to realize something that they would have realized on their own in time.
Exactly.
Yeah. If anything, it's just encourage them to pick someone they want to eat. And it's basically
he is just biased.
They're closest to when they were human.
That's why Kimoto said that the villains in Boruto, but maybe most villains, they have different reasons to be evil. Like they don't need to be evil for like just to be evil. Like maybe the Otsutsuki, they are evil because they like Otsutsuki are like for me, Otsutsuki are like programs. They only do one task, is to eat a chakra fruit and upgrade. They only do the same thing. They repeat. They don't change. Anything you said to them, they don't change.
Except for Kag, yeah.
But like for the Otsutsuki, it's not a fundamental thing for them. They just choose to do that. That's a choice. That's their culture that's like put them in that situation. But like they can be raised to be different, as like Hagoromo and Hamura show. Like that's not a.
Also, they destroy planets, so they're kind of, I would say, evil.
Yeah, their culture is evil.
Yeah, but like the Shinju, you have to understand that like you need to in Boruto you need to look at both sides. Just don't look at just humans. I know we are humans. We're gonna understand. We always gonna prefer ourselves to others. Like we know that Otsutsuki are aliens. We're gonna call.
Honestly, I feel
gonna call it Shinju, but I just want to say that if you look at both sides, even Otsutsuki's side, the Shinju, they are newborn. So imagine you are a Shinju. You are a Shinju. You are born as Shinju, and there are people who want you to kill you, but you don't know why. Maybe some Shinju know why because they are born from somewhere else, but someone wants to kill you. What you will do to you will survive. You will try to do, but I can't live. I want to live.
Yeah.
Why cannot
to be
live?
honest, this doesn't really seem to be like the conflict that's being this morally grey conflict of this new species arriving, but then this like let's see, one race is like, we need to destroy them and all that stuff. It's more like divine tree monsters that are just trying to do their function of devouring planets and all that.
Yeah.
It seems like monsters that have been lost control for Code, who I will admit, this arc makes him even more of a pathetic, let's see, antagonist he is, getting his butt.
For human side.
Let's see, hold on, quiet. Let's see, I'm going to make my point as let's see, Code being immediately spotted, I think, by Ryu at the beginning of this arc, and then basically be told to do by Jura to like, okay, go and let's see, find Boruto and Kashin Kojin, who's they don't know is the informant yet. So basically, the man who's supposed to be in control of all these divine trees, if you will, has become their lackey. It just makes him look more pathetic from a character that was allegedly stronger than is Shiki Otsutsuki or something? Yeah. I don't know. It's like it's just looking more and more pathetic to me, to be honest.
Yeah. I have no empathy for these Shinju who don't have personality, as far as I'm aware, in my opinion. I think they just are the Tintails with other people's chakra overlaid on top of them, of which that's their true selves. The interview is just gonna make me double down on this because, Kamui, if you want to pull, where's the interview? Do you know where it is?
Should be. You might have moved it to intro pictures, but I had an intro topics originally.
Okay, I haven't.
Intro topics still.
So it's gonna be
like
here.
From the information we're given, the Shinju are basically just. It's the difference between. I'm gonna use this. Having an Xbox 360 or emulating on your computer. Like, personally, I'd rather have an Xbox 360 to play the games instead of emulating it. Like, one's just better.
There you go. Okay, so I'm still sharing my screen. I just want to go through this really quick. Oh, are you guys cutting out?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. So this was a interview with Ikimoto for the Boruto 9th. The anniversary of series, whatever this is, whatever event this, I still don't know what this was, but Ikimoto did an interview. And so the question is, how did you decide on the personalities and speech patterns for the Shinju? Ryu has changed a great deal since the time he was Shinki, but what is the cause? And then Ikimoto answers, everyone has a different personality that they put on in front of others, having this sense of sociality. That one is imperative to carrying out your social way of life. But the humanoid Shinju have only just awakened their self-awareness, or ego, and so they don't have this sense. They are primitive and only true to their instincts. Even if their personality seems different from the original, that might actually reveal their true nature. So I don't think that Matsuri is the combination of the Tintails and Moegi coming together to form some new third personality or whatever. I think the Shinju, like Matsuri for example, just is the Tintails or Claw Grimes with the instincts to devour the nature. And through Moegi's chakra, the personality overlaid onto Matsuri's true self is Moegi. Despite it seeming different, this is Moegi's true self. That is Moegi's personality.
The societal, environmental influence, essentially.
Yeah, so it's Moegi's personality. It's like drunk Moegi, basically, if you want to say it like that. It's Moegi's true self that we don't usually get to see because Moegi isn't being her true self. Unlike Sarada, who I guess now is going to be her true self. But so the Shinju aren't unique. They just are the original person's personality overlaid on top of the Shinju who don't have their own personality or personality at all and just is the Tintails. If you remove Moegi, there's nothing left. There's no personality.
Actually, the greatest example we have is literally Dragon Ball Z with they're basically Kid Buu.
I was going to say the same thing.
They've just absorbed the purpose a person.
Kid Buu versus Fat Buu whenever he absorbs that Kai. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Very similar to that.
Anyway, if you wanted to get the Shinju, these new species things, you'd have to make them like the Demons of Promised Neverland. I'm not sure if you've read that manga.
I have. I totally know what you're talking about. I've been thinking the same thing with Matsuri, specifically in the Goldie Pond arc when the one demon eats the other demon while crying. That hits so hard in terms of this whole conversation.
Yeah, but yeah.
So
Anyway, Drago says that you need to come downstairs and eat your dino chicken nuggets, apparently. But I'm not sure what that joke is a reference to. But I think going back to like the Boruto chapter now, let's see. I do find the conversation that Boruto and Jura have about he's curious about what love is to Boruto and all that stuff. I thought, okay, at least that is something, and I do like that Boruto seems to be attached to like Sasuke's sword.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's my favorite part of the chapter.
In the chapter, they see you the problem with love. In Boruto is when when Jura took the sword of Boruto. This is the action of love. When Boruto said to Jura, "If you touch that sword, I'm going to kill you." This is the problem with love. This is the problem with love. Jura is saying that he's seeing the problem with love that are affecting the humans mentality. This is what Jura wants you to. This is what Ikemoto wants you to look at the problem with humans cannot overcome. They cannot control. They cannot control their emotions. They cannot control their love. When Jura take the sword, just the sword, Jura didn't touch Boruto or kill him. He just touched the sword. Boruto immediately, with aggressively, he said, Jura, you touch us, you break that sword, I'm going to kill you. But Jura wants to know, but why? I'm just using that sword. I can't break it. Why? It's just a sword. It's just a sword. Why you want to kill me? It's just a sword. Like a sword. Like why you want to kill me? Why you want me to have the worst dead of forever? Why you want me to have the worst dead? I just take the sword. So Jura wants you to look at what the love. Love is not just about romance. Love is about all the things. Because if a person has
okay,
love,
sorry to interrupt, but just rereading, I don't think Jura's making a big deal about why you're killing me over a sword thing. He's just saying that you're just gonna suffer because of love, and it's like this just threatening to use this. Hold on, quiet. It's threatening to use this to say, if you want the sword back, I'd see just tell me your accomplice, but going like either way I'm killing you, but it's like I'll leave the sword alone. That's basically it. And then Boruto's just going like, let's see, you might be right about humans, but see flaws of their love and all that stuff, but this is the difference between humans are not you trees, that see humans can have these more sentimental attachments over love and all that stuff, while the trees seem to lack the proper understanding of love. At least that's the way I seem to think from what the chapter is describing. Granted, it's interesting though. I feel like it could have been better worded, to be honest. Which I'm not sure if Oodie and Kamui agree. Sorry, what?
If it was like in that circumstance, I would have imagined it would have been better for Boruto to say it's like you beings can't understand love without eating another person. Like you basically have to eat and emulate other people to be able to understand emotions.
I don't
Honestly,
think Boruto,
personally, I like what Boruto said there.
Yeah,
Partially depending on whether he's trying to tell himself this so that he can, basically go through with the mission without faltering on the corner armor. I actually like it from that angle. The only other option, I don't think Oodie's gonna be surprised when I say this, if I were to tweak the dialogue, would be to say something along the lines of, you might be wrong, you might be right about love being a fatal flaw of humans, blah, blah, blah. But, and then as he powers up Uzuhiko, he could say, it's also our greatest strength, as he then goes and attacks Jura. That's the only thing I would potentially do differently, but I like what he said just fine.
But yeah. Other than that, I do like that. It's just the Rasengan that Boruto has, which was broken as hell when I first read it, does not seem to actually affect this guy. So it's like, this is the standard part of the story where the protagonist cannot beat the bad guy. It's basically, think like Luke versus Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. You come to save your friends, You're up against a bad guy you stand no chance against. Basically.
Kamui
This is all
just writing Kamui's perfect chapter. So Boruto's gonna say the "love is our greatest strength" line, and then Mamushi's gonna pop out of Jura and be like, "Why haven't you killed him yet?"
well, but I think this is becoming all of beginning of Shippuden all over again. Naruto go through this entire training trip, and then you find out, all that training he did, absolutely useless for when it comes to dealing with any of the problems he's currently facing.
Yeah, arguably, it seems like
Boruto's training definitely helped him with a lot of the problems. Like, it helped him deal with Code, helped him deal with Hidari, helped him deal with Matsuri. It's just Jura.
Well, that's the thing. It's like anytime the actual main threat to like the thing comes up, and then it's just like, you thought Code was a thing? Yeah, no, he doesn't matter.
Well, to be fair,
Kawaki?
To be fair on that, Boruto is also being trained to prevent Jura from even appearing in the first place.
Yeah.
Boruto has pressure on him, so he's 3 years. He was not just for. Boruto has to be strong as hell in order for Jura to happy. He has some pressure, so maybe he has no his future self, but his training needs to be on top. He has to be in top level because Boruto is 15 years old. Yeah, he's fighting attempters with intelligence. So Jura, we still don't know. Maybe maybe we're gonna have a backstory about the Shinju because Jura is very curious about why Boruto knows a lot about that. The Shinju story should be private. Like, I don't know why Jura is always saying that Boruto, you should not supposed to know about us. So maybe there's a story about us, about them, that maybe we're gonna see a little bit later on the story about
the Tempest told him. That's why he knows it.
So I think what I can understand from what you're saying, Rock and Alice, is that Boruto versus Jura is happening way too soon. It feels like he only just started to show what he can do, but now he's already getting his butt whipped, and now he's going to need to have training again. So basically, it's like, okay, it needs to be like, maybe if like this happened in another arc or two, because it's like, show more of what Boruto can do before having this fight, and then have them, have that fight, lose, and then Boruto realizes the stuff that, okay, Kashin Kojin's right, I'm not ready to face him, I need to train, and then fight him again when it actually does happen.
Which is exactly why I hate the idea of Kawaki showing up to fight alongside Boruto right now. Oh, it was set up! No, this is like endgame for these two to work together to defeat Jura. That's not going to happen next chapter. Okay, Jura's not dying next chapter.
I don't think Kawaki will come. I don't think.
It's like, this shouldn't have happened at this time. It should have just been Boruto basically comes in, gets everybody out, and there's like, no, we can fight. And it's like, no, we can't. And then just yanks everybody out of there.
Yeah, I don't really know why Boruto didn't try to do that. I mean, because I know Hashikoji says he can't, but that just isn't objectively true because he did it. He did it when the Shinju ganged up on him and he was in Matsuri's art style grapple jutsu and they were trying to kill him. Teleported away then across dimensions. He snatched Himawari right in front of Jura and teleported away before he did anything. He could have teleported away if he wanted to.
He had plenty of time to do so when Jura grabbed him with this wood style and had a whole monologue about Boruto's sword. He could have done it there, but he wanted his sword back. And then you know what he does? He gets his sword back, he uses Uzuhiko, and Jura's on the ground, unable to stand or fly or anything. And Boruto's just monologuing to him instead of focusing to teleport away with that precious time that he gathered with the sword back.
He got the sword, no reason.
He never used Uzuhiko against Jura, so he has maybe to at least to try. I don't know.
Boruto just wants to kill Jura here, and he's not going to accept the fact that he can't, so he's not going to teleport away until either he or Jura is dead.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Oodie. It's like, if he's been training these past 2 years to just either stop Jura from showing up, or if he did, immediately gank him. You have him there, right at your mercy. Why are you monologuing? This is not Game of Thrones.
Like, why is he telling him how Uzuhiko works? He is your opponent. You do not do that. Just behead him with the sword.
Enough words are doing the bleach problem.
Yeah.
Uzuhiko should be a one-hit kill, but maybe...
Well, it's not even...
Odo is 15 years old. Like, he's a young man. Like,
it doesn't matter your age.
Bad. He tried. He said that Uzuhiko is his powerful technique, so he used on Jura. He thought that Jura is gonna have trouble with it, but he didn't have. He's not.
Okay, but that doesn't matter in this situation. In this situation, he's been training for the past 2 years, basically being told, when you see this guy, you either have to kill him or you run. Those are your options.
Boruto wasn't monologuing to the Tin Tails. He was going there to instantly kill it as quickly as he could. Back in, like, chapter 4.
And he wasn't monologuing to Hidari.
Yeah, like, he didn't monologue anywhere else in this thing, other than when he knew he could beat Code. That's the only time he did it, and that's because he had Code at his mercy, and it was over.
Well, that was because he needed Code to bring him to the Tin Tails.
Yeah, he still needed Code alive, so that's why he monologued.
It's a good thing there, in a way.
But Jura got affected by the jutsu. That's why he was monologuing, because he thought that Jura was done.
But Jura wasn't dead. Your job is to... Uzuhiko, as far as we know, doesn't actually kill you. It incapacitates you.
Well,
it depends on the strength of it. Because, like, no, the one he charged up on Jura, visibly based off the art, wasn't as powerful as the one versus Hidari. But hypothetically, he can make it powerful enough to blow Jura up. He was probably not practical for him to actually be able to accomplish it.
When you got the Uzuhiko, the person cannot move. Like, he cannot.
Okay, that's the thing.
That's why he was telling him, Jura, you cannot. Right now, you cannot. You cannot stand in, and you cannot walk. So.
Did Coach not tell him about this, by the way? Did he not just say, Boruto, Jura can undo Uzuhiko, and he just didn't tell him?
Yeah, like, this is the thing. He's been training for 2 years. You cannot tell me he did not take 10 minutes, a few hours out of those 2 years to have a discussion about what can Jura do? What can't he do?
Why you can't beat him?
Like, why can't I beat him? If I use this Uzuhiko technique we're training, what happens when I hit him with it? Oh, that's what happens? You're telling me he didn't take any time to gather information about this?
We know Koji saw it.
Usually, whenever a character monologues about how their ability works, first of all, it's the first time it's ever been shown in order to realistically, writing-wise, explain it to the audience, so the audience knows what's happening. But usually it's whenever it's a villain who's stronger than the main character, so they're snarky, overconfident, they're just being a villain, and they just think they're gonna win, so they're just like rubbing it in, laughing about it, basically, by explaining their ability.
As an example, Hunter x Hunter, Hisoka does this because he likes to give his opponent an advantage. Like, Hisoka versus Goto is the best example. He just tells him about his ability, and he's like, you're an idiot. You shouldn't tell your opponent. And then he's like, oh, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to beat you anyway, despite the fact that you know. That's like a villain thing to do.
Like, overzealous or whatever. But here, not only are the stakes of the world, but Boruto's literally the underdog. The underdog doesn't get the right to do this in a fight.
But it's not even that the underdog doesn't get the right to do this. This particular underdog has been told for the past 2 years, you do not have a chance. So if you are given one, you take it.
And we've seen Boruto act like that before.
Yeah, but you cannot just do nothing. He's stupid.
He didn't do it to Hidari again. Against Hidari, he's just serious, like, we're gonna kill him. It's like he's not wasting time.
Yes, but like with Jura, it's like Koji said that Jura, when he's furious, there's almost nobody can beat him. He said that, Koji Koji said that. So himself, Koji, he doesn't know how to beat Jura. But he can, but in order to beat Jura, maybe he has to follow or he has to find things that maybe some future has events that has maybe has put people have more chance to fight Jura. Maybe Kashikoji is trying to do that. But right now, he doesn't have a clue how to beat Jura. He said that he doesn't know.
But as far as like we know so far, doing significant enough damage to the trees incapacitates them. You have him at the mercy, you chop him into bits. Right then and there. Like, you don't even have to think about it. You use lightning release and you chop this dude up into little itty bitty bits.
Same way you did Matsuri.
Good luck. Yeah, like the same way.
If he thinks he can't work, because Koji actually explained why each and everything Boruto has won't work. He should just run away, teleport to Konohamaru, who's already 500 feet away by now, then teleport back to Koji, and then teleport Konohamaru to Leaf Village so he doesn't know where Koji actually is, or something like.
Yeah, it's like it's either going into this fight. Boruto knows he has nothing in his kit that can take Jura down, so you have to get the hell out of there. Or
for some reason, though, Boruto thinks he does, though, because he's thinking in the fight, oh, I'll have to use Uzuhiko, and then Uzuhiko doesn't work, and he's like, Uzuhiko doesn't work on it. Like, he's surprised.
Okay, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because BlueStar, this is something I wanted your opinion on, since you just read the latest chapter anyways. So this is something that's been very controversial in the community. Me and Kamui have been going over this last night as well. So here is exactly what Kamui's talking about. They have a whole exchange in this chapter. Boruto says, I guess to take him down, I'll need to use Uzuhiko. He's saying this because he already used the Rasengan, didn't seem to have much damage, and so he's having to rely on the Uzuhiko, his strongest technique. So he says, oh no, without planting my feet on solid ground, I can't use Uzuhiko. In that case, ... So the question is, what do you think this panel means? How did you interpret this, if you even thought about it at all? Or how do you interpret it now? What is the in that case in reference to?
I might have not thought about it at first, but maybe I thought it's in order for you to use this sort of gravitational power of the Earth, you need to be connected with it in order to use the force of the power or something. At least that's what my understanding of it is. You need to touch the Earth to feel its gravity, I guess.
Yep.
At least that might be what I'm understanding.
Yeah, so I think he intentionally allowed himself to be captured by Jura, so he has the time to charge Uzuhiko, as you see in this chapter, so he can hit Jura with the Uzuhiko. Since it's, the only thing he has that he needs to use to take him down. Since the Rasengan doesn't work.
What Jutsu Boruto want to use to destroy Jura?
Uzuhiko.
Uzuhiko, that's it. Uzuhiko.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work, and now Boruto has to find something more broken and OP that I assume it's much to I'm not sure who said it, Dismay. Probably Kawaki is going to come and save him with his new upgraded powers from Amado, who he basically threatens that you're not going to get your daughter revived until you give me my powers.
I mean,
but so I will say,
he just doesn't have his limited resolve yet. So, was it going to flash
So, this gets weird if Koji did actually break down and explain how Jura will overcome Uzuhiko and blah, blah, blah. But the best explanation you can give, though, is that because Koji's been withholding information about Yodo, blah, 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 Boruto just doesn't believe Koji. He just thinks he can beat Jura. He thinks Koji's lying for whatever reason. He doesn't believe him, and that's why he thinks he can win.
Well, what I hope is that it's going to be because Boruto is just a good guy, and whereas he wants Jura dead, there is that part one good-natured kid in him that sees Jura's consciousness, and his heart fluttered or wavered, just like Konohamaru, basically.
But this also brings up the issue. If Koji's hiding things from him, the way 10 Paths works, he should know how that ends up. He knows Boruto's going to do this stupid action right here, right now. He would have seen it.
Seems like, so we don't know for sure, but it seems like when again, because he should see every possible future. So we should see every possibility where he says 5 different things, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like whenever he tells people about the future, he basically doesn't know what will happen. Or rather, he might know the possibilities, but then it becomes less likely which one it will be. So he doesn't really know what will happen when he tells them. So if he tells Boruto, Jura's going to kill you, he doesn't really know which of the paths Boruto is going to take now.
And also the problem about when you tell the future to someone, like Koji told Boruto about Jura's gonna come, is gonna come, and he's gonna to kill you. But when Koji said that, Boruto can prepare himself for that to happen. So when Koji is telling an event that will happen, right, but Boruto can change that event because he's aware of that event that will happen. That will happen. But like he said, the future, like, it's changing right now. It's like yes, Koji saw that, but the future can also change. So maybe
the way the future works apparently is like
it's hard.
It's sort of. It's not deterministic. It's probabilistic.
Yeah,
all possibilities happen.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, not all possibilities happen in the same timeline, but you can have all possible outcomes. There is no determinism in it.
Yeah, that's what he said. Because Koji is trying to convince Boruto about, I see multiple futures that you're gonna die. But what is the probability of that? Maybe he saw that, like, to 100 future he saw is like 70 future that Boruto dies. But 30% can happen to that Boruto survive. But just because
probability
he saw more number, probability.
Well, the thing is, the probability is close enough to infinite to not matter.
Yeah, but can say that.
I think it's just the singularity of fate thing just changes everything.
It's probably that. But like at that point, this whole like this scan right here, it's like he's assuming Uzuhiko will work.
Mm-hmm.
That means he trained for this. He knew this might happen. Koji should have seen at least a few timelines where he uses Uzuhiko in different circumstances on Jura. So he should have been able to tell him whether or not that would ever work.
To be fair, maybe the other futures that Koji saw is when Boruto was able to charge his Uzuhiko to full power in order to just one-shot Jura or whatever happens there.
Wait, Koji says that Boruto can't take on Jura yet. So what if Koji, this is so stupid, but what if Koji told Boruto about like a 1 year later version of this fight, and Boruto just thinks this right now?
That would
be so stupid.
That would be like, I would be like, Koji, why the hell do you even exist? You're absolutely useless to me.
Terrible at explaining.
Frankly, let's see, this Rasen Kojin, let's see, ability. The only question is whether or not this is going to be Boruto's endgame jutsu or just a jutsu that further develops, like how each time when you had Naruto train, he got a more advanced Rasengan.
Yeah. So, are we all in agreement that the second half of this sentence, in that case, which follows up from I can't use Uzuhiko, following up from without planting my feet on solid ground, are we all in agreement that Boruto is, the second half of the sentence would be Boruto planning on a way to use Uzuhiko, or does someone have a different interpretation that they think is more likely or that they believe, such as he's, in that case, I'll use the Fluzuhiko or some other jutsu that he has.
So it's possible there's another ability he's going to try next chapter. Obviously, that's a possibility. But based on him being like, Uzuhiko doesn't work on him at the end of the chapter, I agree. I just have a slightly different way of phrasing your idea, or not necessarily your idea, but ideas I've heard. It's just that I think it's like Boruto's like, when I inevitably get captured, that's when I'll take the opportunity to charge it up. Versus, I don't think it's like, oh, I'm going to pretend to fall over and get caught. I think it's like, when Jura does catch me, because I don't have a choice, that's when I will stall and charge up Uzuhiko. That's just how I would phrase it.
Yeah, he doesn't have a choice. He's just choosing to fight. But yeah, I would have, from the way I interpret it, it's like, okay, I have to plant my feet to get this off. Which is like, we got to take a moment to appreciate how badly designed Uzuhiko is. If you have to plant your feet and stand there to charge up an attack, and just you have to rely on your opponent letting you get this off.
Or Uzuhiko's trash. I've been saying it. I'm gonna keep saying
well,
it.
Actually, I have a different thing. So, okay, so this is a little bit. Oodie, can you go to the panel of when Jura, like when Boruto's in like the wood spikes position? Probably your next one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think you already had the image. Okay. It's not really clear. I wanted to know. Okay, so you know, like with Naruto and Sasuke, they're like in the air when Jigen does a very similar thing. What I wanted to know is, are Boruto's feet even planted, or are they just dangling? In the air?
I assumed no, they aren't on the ground. I assumed that they were on the wood, and I assumed that can count, assuming this is the roots of like the previous Tintails all across the earth still, and if that's counted.
I will say that when he breaks it does look like his feet are just on the ground anyway, so that he might just have his feet planted, but it's a little bit drawn confusingly in that sense.
I agree.
Like the whole Boruto and Speedlight things makes that freaking picture so hard to interpret, because like when I look at it, I see as like the tree branches basically coming from the ground and lifting him up.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because again, when Jigen does it to Naruto and Sasuke with the rods, their feet are just dangling in the air, like they're not on the ground. Yeah. And this is a parallel to that moment, because not only is Boruto stabbed the same way, Jura does the Jigen walk.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing that happens in all other parts of Naruto when someone does a technique like that. It comes from the ground, stabs into you, and lifts you up.
I still think. I don't know if you would count like his feet being firmly, solidly planted or whatever, but I do think he has his feet on the wood itself, and I think that is still counting as charging the Uzuhiko, because at least the wood's connected to the earth.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, because he says it needs to come directly from the earth, I think, when it's like, you start getting the gray area, I don't know, man, I don't know what direct connections he needs, but I'd be fine with it. I just want them to specify at some point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hope they stop using these freaking speed lines and actually draw freaking backgrounds.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, let's see. The only way I can see that happening is if you get Ikimo to actually draw double pages first.
Yeah. So the reason, I think that all of this is connected to why it's explaining Uzuhiko. You don't even need the other 4 panels. I think you can explain it with just this one singular panel alone. In that case is a natural follow-up from I can't use Uzuhiko. So he's connecting these 2 ideas. That's just how in that case works. It can't stand on its own. So I can't use Uzuhiko in that case. Those 2 are connected. Is there any more information we can point to for context to reference? Yes, there is. There's this thing on the right. Without planting my feet on solid ground. Okay, that right there tells you, because there's 2 different paths you can go based off of this to get 2 different interpretations. Well, in that case, could be in reference to I can't use Uzuhiko, he's going to use a different ability, or it could be in reference to I can't use Uzuhiko. Well, then why? What is that other context? The reason he can't use Uzuhiko is because he can't plant his feet on the ground. I think between the 2 interpretations of a different ability or the reason of why he can't use Uzuhiko, I would point to the reason why he can't use Uzuhiko as being more likely, because that is directly the evidence in the series being presented as the natural follow-up to I can't use Uzuhiko, as opposed to...
Well, not just that, but he uses Uzuhiko, and then when it doesn't work, he goes, damn it, Uzuhiko doesn't work on him.
Yeah. So why am I going with the why can't you use Uzuhiko as opposed to the he has a different ability interpretation? It's because he already gave us reason for why he can't use Uzuhiko on the right, and then followed it up with that the conclusion.
It's like a program. Boruto, in order to use Uzuhiko, he has to respect a condition. His condition is that he needs to have his feet on the ground, on maybe he says on solid ground or any ground. He needs that conditions in order to use Uzuhiko. This just that he needs. It's like Damon has reflections, but Abadu said that he has there are conditions that that maybe Damon has to respect in order for the reflection to. So a program in computer is the same thing. You have a program and you have condition. You in the program, there's a condition that maybe you want. Yeah, there's a condition that you want your program to do in order to accomplish a task.
We know.
You have to accomplish a task. So, of course, I'm not going to compare like it's similar. Is that Boruto needs? He has a condition. He cannot if he cannot respect that condition, he cannot use Uzuhiko. He has this is what I see with Uzuhiko. He has to respect this condition that he needs to be his feet needs to be on the ground on solid ground or anything in order to use Uzuhiko. That's it.
I really want shout out the flying rising thing for this, but I want an explanation of how Boruto even absorbs the centrifugal forces of the planet. Like, because what is he doing to do that? Yeah, I know he needs to have his feet planted on solid ground, but how does he absorb specifically centrifugal forces? How does he do that? He's not Yoroi, he doesn't have that type of ability. He's specifically not using karma. So what is the ability that lets him absorb this so that he can then use it towards his Rasengan Uzuhiko? You can't just say it just naturally applies to his chakra just by standing there, because one, that's not what they're saying in the description, and two, that would just apply to every jutsu, so every jutsu would just debilitate you.
But also,
so he specifically is absorbing it somehow through his feet.
The word absorption tells me that he's taking it away from the planet as well. Is the planet like slowing down or something when he does this? Like hypothetically?
Well, so that was my theory. That's why the Earth's trembling, that when Damon notices it. Because if you imagine, this is going to be Damon being ridiculously good at sensing it, but imagine a train as it's suddenly stops. You feel the rumbling as it's stopping, like it's not smooth. So imagine that, but with the planet. And Damon's just so ridiculous, he can detect it.
There's two things that come out of that. One, where did he even get this idea? Because there has to be an initial Boruto somewhere in the timeline that decides, hey, the next best thing for Rasengan is to just take the centrifugal force from the planet. I have no technique that's ever done this. I have no idea for this. I just suddenly decided no one's ever done this with chakra before, but I'm going to take the centrifugal force of the planet and add it to a Rasengan.
So it would have been cool if... they do examples of this in the novels or even Baryon mode, arguably. But again, I don't think they're going to do this because they just stopped doing the ninja tech stuff. But similar to how in one of the Boruto novels, Sasuke gets the idea of the Lorentz gun, shout out Rick or whatever his name was, from the Ninja Tech Department's scientific discoveries. It would have been cool if Katasuke or whoever, Orochimaru, I don't care who it is, someone in the science team started to somehow theorize or implement, they're doing something with centrifugal forces, and that inspires Boruto, ninja tech inspiring, the science inspiring ninjutsu to make it better than it ever was before, early Boruto themes. That could have been the inspiration for him doing it. The same way that Kurama's talked about nuclear fusion, that's the inspiration of Baryon mode, basically.
The same way that Sasuke made pseudo ice style.
Exactly. But
of course,
they could have easily. They could still address it later on, but it just what's the context surrounding it? Was Boruto just on his own, wandering around village to village? Just what was the context? I just would like to know. But I think the best way to do it is science.
Get the context. Of course, you're gonna get the context. It's one of the biggest jutsu of the Naruto.
I wouldn't say, of course, we're gonna get the context. Considering that in the story, there's a lot of things that we just haven't gotten context on. And I don't think we ever.
I doubt
if I watch Boruto. Many people said the same thing about Boruto managed to have a fly washing.
Nobody said they wouldn't address it for that one.
Yeah,
we just wanted to know what the answer was.
Some people said they're never gonna address it. Some people said that.
I'm sure someone said it. But.
Yeah. I doubt they'll address how Boruto got the idea for Uzuhiko, because specifically for this, it's given to him by Koji. Koji gives him the knowledge of the Borutos from other timelines, what they were doing, and what he could get from that. So, but my thing is, where's what did the original Boruto that he got the idea from? How did he get the idea? because he didn't get it from a Koji.
They kind of did that. They kind of did do this though with the Flying Rising. Now, granted, it was kind of randomly just put into Chapter 16, but they kind of did that with Flying Rising. Like, hey, you have the Otsutsuki teleportation. You started doing this and this and this and this to come up with it. They haven't done that for us like on Uzuhiko yet, so it's possible we are just gonna get a random chapter where we just see Koji telling them all about it.
Well, let me.
I don't know why they wouldn't have done it yet. Maybe they're gonna do it next chapter because Jura just overcame it. I don't know. But
let me one up you on that.
The same idea.
Because of this, so I'm assuming that Koji's future that he's seeing, that Boruto learns this in 6 years' time, is one where Koji never met Boruto. Which means not only did Boruto he was just going to escape when those sand ninja were chasing him down that one time, and Koji seemed to give him the get out of jail free card. So Boruto just wasn't in danger there. Not only that, but that means, and this is the one that you're gonna laugh at, Boruto lives for 6 more years, just naturally. So Jura wasn't going to kill him for 6 years, and the worst possible future isn't going to be for at least 6 more years. Not going to be
Jura wasn't going to come out.
There is another possibility. It's a possibility where Code just never did the claw marks, blah, 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 and Boruto just got really strong in that one specific timeline.
Yes.
Or it could just be, normally in the chain of events, if Koji doesn't interfere, they have a 6-year timeline before the apocalypse happens. But because Koji basically interferes, it cuts it down to 2 years.
Yeah, like now Jura... Well, it's also possible that in the first version where Koji's not telling Boruto all these secrets, Jura just doesn't feel threatened by any of them because they don't have knowledge in the first place. But because now that they do, he's like, oh, this is bad. You guys are dangerous. And now he's rushing things.
Well, but then again, how far does all possible futures even, work? Because it doesn't seem like the butterfly effect is affecting 10 directions at all. For example, okay, in one timeline, Ishiki defeats Baryon Mode Naruto. But in that timeline, Ishiki's just going to implant Kawaki with karma again. So, in the future, Code will not kill Kawaki. But we know in a different future that Code kills Kawaki. So it seems like all these different possible futures are just branching off of the future, the main timeline, instead of just seeing the butterfly effect of all branching possible futures as our own tree, basically.
Yeah, I'm going to guess the limiting factor in 10 Pass is that when you're using it, you're seeing all possible futures from that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he probably no longer sees the Ishiki winning future because it's just 3 years later.
No, I agree, but I forget, maybe... But I thought the original explanation was when he first used 10 Directions, when he was, fighting Ishiki, he saw the Baryon Mode one, he also saw the Code killing Kawaki one, and, everything else.
Yeah, he saw all those in that moment.
And so it seems like it's following the one timeline. If that's the case, then the 6 years in the future timeline has to be the one where the Shinju are there.
Not necessarily, because again, he saw the Ishiki winning. So in that one, the problem is he only lists 3 futures. There could be, like I said, a future where Ishiki dies, Code lives, but he just doesn't win because he just sits there being lazy, drinking alcohol with Bug or something, hypothetically. And that's the one where Boruto gets strong. That just is a possibility, as ridiculous as it is.
But what do you think about
I don't think so.
Kashin Koji?
Oh,
it's gonna be my last thing because I need to go. But I think the Kashin Koji problem with depressions is that he cannot see the choice behind the person. Person talks each person has a choice to a decision.
I think he can see the choices though. It depends on how specific it is.
But the person can choose another decisions.
Yes, he doesn't know the decision.
At that point in time, the guy choose that decision, but that doesn't mean that there's another timeline. The person can do another decision. It's different. It depends on.
He can't see the decision you'll make, but he can see all the decisions you could possibly make.
Yeah, he doesn't see the choices,
and then
but
he sees which ones are most likely to be made.
He sees the branching pathways. So he knows the conclusion of both choices, and just based on logical induction, that means he'll be able to infer what the choice was.
I think he just sees the choice anyway.
Yeah.
You see the
I
action.
probably need to sort of wrap up this podcast.
Yeah, I need to go.
Okay.
You can do the last topic real quick. If you want to do one more topic, you can pick it, and we'll try to just do it quickly.
Yeah. My main thing is that, let's see, since Sarada was introduced to a Mangekyo Sharingan ability that's similar to Kurami, do you think that means Kakashi could come back to be her mentor?
No. I think it should, but it won't.
Bringing him back.
What?
I do not believe they're bringing Kakashi back for a long time.
Ever. Not as long as Ikimoto's in charge.
Yeah, because like hypothetically, there's a little bit of like ridiculousness to where, okay, let's just say they bring him back for Sarada's mentor randomly. Why wasn't he a contender for like becoming Hokage when Naruto's gone, and among other things? Like, if he's not going to be back for that, well, why is he randomly get up to train Sarada, someone he doesn't care about?
Yeah, you can't tell me like Naruto went missing and Kakashi didn't immediately drop whatever the fuck he was doing. And
that still annoys me. The fact that Kakashi and Sakura are not present in the current events. It's like, literally, let's see, one of your teammates has been killed, and allegedly your other teammate is helping the accomplice. I said this to Kami and Ood in the first podcast I was in with them.
Yeah. Let's remember, in Naruto Retsuden, or whatever novel that was, where Naruto gets sick, Kakashi's playing an active role to save Naruto. Let's also remember, in the Mirai arc, after he's done being Hokage and he's retired, he's still going on missions to go stop the Joshin dude. And even in the anime, he's stopping Kashin Koji from stealing the codes. He's actively playing a role there, too.
He's training Boruto.
Yeah, give him the compressed Rasengan. So, what's up?
But yeah, arguably, you probably should be having Kakashi at some point to come in and help, but it's like, for some reason...
He should have already been there, is the thing. And if he wasn't there before, it runs into the, well, why wasn't he... If he comes back now, and that makes sense, but why wasn't he there before? If he never comes back, then it's just... Yeah. Where was he the whole time, I guess?
But yeah.
Did you guys...
Go on.
So... Going back to the in that case panel, it's a very quick thing I wanted to say here, is the way I'm saying this is Boruto is making an observation, or noticing a problem, if you want to word it that way, and he's coming to a conclusion based on that, and then offering a solution. And the solution to the conclusion of the problem would go back to the problem rather than just the conclusion, is how I'm saying that. Rather than, I can't use Uzuhiko being like the observation or the part 2 of the observation or anything like that. It's like, because this observation exists, and that just means I can't use Uzuhiko in that case. It doesn't stand on its own. You have to connect it to this first idea. If it was just these two things on the left, I can't use Uzuhiko in that case, then it could be equal interpretation for it to go either way. He could be referencing, well, maybe not equal because I have these other arguments as well, but just based on this panel alone, could be equal interpretation for it to be a different ability, or for it to be he's gonna find a way to have his beat planted on the ground, or so he can use Uzuhiko, is what I mean.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the main thing would just be the rest of the chapter, where it just seems pretty clear which direction it's going in.
Yes. Okay. Moving on from that. Okay.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
I don't remember why I wanted to know your opinion on the Green Island thing. What is it that you said that led to this?
Isekai.
But what about? I don't remember.
I hate it.
Doesn't matter. Okay, well, you know what? I'll share my screen. Because you mentioned how I wrote a lot for a couple of things for comments.
Okay. Okay, but before I brought up this, you were trying to bring up something. What was it? Ooh.
I'll invite Immortal here.
Yes.
But
Immortal.
It was going to be one of the comments. So, because you had mentioned there's 2 comments like this where I just had a long response to something.
And before we get to that, hello, Immortal. Immortal Phoenix.
What is going on?
Hello.
What's going on?
How are you?
You know, Immortal, I'm glad that you came back because, not gonna lie, if you had tried to speak earlier, there was just too many people.
I couldn't even do it.
I know. I was just like, oh, okay. I'll come back later.
Yeah.
I'm very glad you did.
I was like,
I felt bad. I was like, bro, this is just too much.
I'm gonna send you guys something, actually.
Okay. Feel free. And while you're doing that, how are you guys doing tonight?
Who are you asking?
Everyone?
Oh, okay. You know what? While he's doing that, have you, I'm talking to you, all 11 of you watching, have you become a member yet?
Or subscribed, or become, I was going to say become
or
a member.
liked the stream, or liked every single video. If the answer is no,
you got 1,003 videos.
Change that. Have you left a super chat tonight?
Well, we know the answer to
that. So, which one of you is gonna change that? Who will be the first to leave a super chat?
And while we're doing our spiel, I'll also say, starting next month, the 1st of, what is it, June? That month, I think, is next month.
It's starting in like 3 days.
So like 3 days. We're going to reduce down to 2 videos per day as opposed to the usual 3 for algorithm reasons. But if you want to become a member, then we're uploading 1 video per day just to test it out. Just so that you can still have 3 videos a day if you want. Otherwise, it's just going to be 2 just to test for algorithm reasons. But so you can still have 3 if you want. Yeah, so sorry for those who want 3.
3 videos a day is too much. So
check into Boruto topics.
Okay. I didn't even realize that you could access this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to see if there's any way to.
Oh my goodness.
Where did you get this? Did you just find this from somewhere?
What is? Oh, is this ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
I don't know. Immortal, did you have anything else to say on power scaling here?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, at this given point, I think I could. I think I might ignore the textual clues on the stat multipliers or whatever. So
yeah, that's fair.
Well, I love what ChatGPT wrote here. True essence isn't just raw power. It's the merging of divine level skill, subconscious foresight, and a war-hardened mindset, turning Boruto into a pseudo-Osusuki who surpasses any prior karma user before him. I have the graph.
I love the graph.
I don't... Yeah.
Also, post time skip base Boruto below when he fights Naruto in spar or over here versus like we already know objectively this is way higher than this.
It's hilarious.
Oh, post time skip karma activated is weaker than pre time skip versus code. Half as strong.
I don't know why it did that, but it just did.
It's amazing.
I was, yeah. But I think it's just the wording not really the wording. It's just how the way Kodachi conveys how stronger a character gets or has gotten over, whatever period that they're in.
Yeah.
Well, I just like at the time that those statements were made, Kodachi was just giving vague hints. He wasn't really explaining it yet. And then when Abado explains what karma is, I feel like that just gave you the explanation. It just is the Osusuki's chakra, however much they're using, and that's just that.
So the percentage could determine how much of an increase in their strength is?
Yeah, I think for the most part, you would just use however much you have extracted. The exception mainly being Boruto and Kawaki when they were just learning how to use karma, so they just weren't fully tapping into it.
So we have to go to Jigen.
Just knows how to use it, but like,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Jigen could be, that what could be that baseline we could use.
Yeah.
So Jigen probably is the best because you can kind of just see like he knows how to use all of it, so he's just gonna use it to its max potential. So like,
exactly.
You see that base Jigen is supposed to be able to. Maybe Naruto can beat him, but Kawaki also thinks Jigen will win. So he's like, base Jigen supposed to be like a Naruto level or stronger. Then we see the teamwork of Naruto and Sasuke is about even with Karma 1 Jigen. And then Karma 2 just beats him.
Yeah. And to an extent, you could also argue that just because a character technically gets X amount stronger, let's just say Jigen knows how to use Karma V1. He gets 10 times stronger because of that. It's full max potential. If Boruto just doesn't know how to use V1, he does get 10 times stronger, but he doesn't fight 10 times stronger or better or faster or literally more powerful because he just doesn't know how to use that potential of the 10 times boost to his stats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all just depends on the specifics.
Yeah, there's a technique to having improved stats in the first place, so just have something.
Yeah, because for example, when Naruto first gets KCM, he was, let's just say, 10 times faster, but he couldn't control it properly, so he just ran into the ground and made a hole and got stuck.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if this example would even necessarily technically work, but just for, like, a real-life example, just to bring it back to Kamui's shtick here, let's just say Kamui can bench press, like, 200 pounds. Maybe I'm underplaying that, but either way, let's just say, hypothetically, for easy numbers, you can bench press 200 pounds. If you got the Flarma seal and you got 3 times stronger when you activate it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can just now bench press 600 pounds just as easily, because there might be a different technique you have to do based on the different weights and how that might fundamentally play into the different environment, or however that mass is going to affect gravity or the bar itself bending a different amount, etc., etc. Like there might be a different technique that you would have to incorporate along with the stat amp in order to fully maximize the potential of being 3 times stronger. And I would also point to KCM Naruto, who didn't even realize how fast he could be, so he got his leg stuck in the wall fighting Kisame.
Exactly, that's the example I gave.
Yeah, or even you could also argue this might be the case because Naruto does make mistakes. We see in the final fight versus Sasuke, he trips when he was using the Rasengan near the end, kind of. As well as when he's fighting Black Zetsu in the war arc, he just, like, speeds past them. That might have just been Naruto being a klutz and a doofus that you could absolutely maximize on. That could also just be Naruto still getting used to his KCM form, at least in the Black Zetsu example. Obviously not in the Naruto versus Sasuke example. That's to say that he can just make mistakes. So it could be either interpretation, because both are just in the series. But it's possible that he was still just getting used to it there. And so he's just not maximizing his KCM1 form, despite it being the same multiplier as when he has it later.
Yeah.
But that's my thoughts.
Oodie Kamui.
What's up?
I don't know if we mentioned this before, but I think we had thought that for some reason Jigen didn't have access to the Korugan when he goes into his karma in his horn state, right?
Well, no, I said he has the eye in both eyes. Oodie thought it was just black eyes and he has light reflections.
Hold on.
Feel free to word that differently, Oodie, if you want. But I've always been of the stance. He has the eye. It's just in both eyes. And for some reason, the triangles are white instead of gold.
Doesn't make sense.
I agree. It doesn't make sense. Why are they in both eyes? But it just is that eye in both eyes.
I would also argue Jigen's eye just does look differently. Like, I don't know what it would be called, but the circular part around the pupil, it's not the skull.
Yeah, he has like a black Byakugan shape eye.
Yeah, it's just way bigger for some reason. It just doesn't. And even when Ishiki has it later, it's still different from when Jigen had it. It's not just more spokes in the eye, unlike Kawaki, who just does get more spokes.
Check into Boruto topics again.
Yeah, the clear triangles. Like it's just too triangular shape to be like light glimmers, and it's also in there in every panel which isn't the case for anyone with a light glimmer.
I just think it's kind of weird how it literally looks like he's beginning to form the eye, but it's not really the eye. It's I mean, this could be due to the fact that he's an incomplete vessel. Maybe that's the reason why he can't access the eye. But I just thought that was pretty interesting. But then why isn't
it both eyes?
I have no idea.
Why does he have its karma on his chin?
Oh, because, that's...
Everyone else gets it on their hand. It's just on Jigen's chin.
I mean, something to point to, again, you could just say this is, rather than design, it's functionality, is Jigen doesn't use the eye in the same way that Kawaki does, because it's like Kawaki's using it like it's a Sharingan ability, a freaking Mangekyo ability, to where he like opens his eye wide or like closes it out of strain or whatever. Jigen doesn't do that at all when he uses his rods, in my opinion, and the eye's not even like really focused on like 90% of the time at least.
He does hand things.
Yeah, so maybe you could argue that Jigen's just better at it, so he doesn't need to do that, but it feels like if they were trying to emphasize it being something from the eye, they would have done that like they did with Kawaki, who made it clear.
Or even Ishiki. It's just weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. No matter how you slice it, it's just weird.
Yeah. That being said, so then the next thing I would say is this matters because of the Shinju, and this is part of what I was saying earlier in terms of I feel like sometimes you see things as black and white. To be fair, that was during the immortal part, but to an extent it's also true. To where you're saying like Naruto is just objectively correct and everyone else is objectively wrong that he disagrees with. I think that some people can have a point.
Like you're just assigning things I'm not saying.
You don't have to directly say them.
Someone's narratively correct, or something. But like I feel like you're over. I mean, sometimes you just say like, for example, you said something earlier. You're acting like I just love to constantly bring it up, and you were the one actually bringing it up every single time. Sometimes I feel like you just say that.
Okay, whereas I was bringing it up, my point wasn't wrong. You still bring that point up a lot.
I couldn't even remember the last time I brought it up.
You brought it like the previous stream.
No, I didn't. We haven't even talked about whatever the thing was in forever. Whatever it was you were talking about.
The Itachi Mangekyo nonsense.
Yeah, but the Susanoo, not brought up in the previous, or the, no, it was about the EMS. But we haven't talked about this in probably a year.
You always reference the
previous stream
explanation.
It was not the previous stream.
If it wasn't the previous stream, then it was 2 streams ago. It definitely was.
No, it wasn't. We have not talked about Itachi's explanation of EMS in God knows how long. I did not bring that up at the very least. If you talked about it with Mello when I went to the bathroom or some shit, then by all means, maybe. But telling you, no.
You could just be misremembering, but that doesn't matter.
Forever.
Okay.
Because I don't even care about Sarada's EMS. That's why I know we haven't talked about it. So Koji predictions aside, the best thing they could do for us Mitsuki fans is have Mitsuki realize Boruto must have shown up, and that's why Jura flew towards Konohamaru, then see Boruto half dead, and then Mitsuki goes crazy and reveals his true power to protect his true son. And all this time, he's not gone truly all out, because he never had to protect his son, blah, blah, blah.
I read that when you first read it, and as time has gone on, I've only loved it more and more, and I know Ikimoto would never do that.
I know, but like... we're grasping at straws at this point.
The problem is, it would actually... I don't even want to say he would never do it, because it actually does work pretty well. Mitsuki knows...
Coming out of the last arc and chapter 14, like...
Yeah, like, Mitsuki knows that Jura's flying towards Konohamaru. He might even see Konohamaru running away. Maybe he's just gonna know that Boruto's there. He's gonna feel an inkling or something, some feeling, some sensation. I can imagine Mitsuki just going.
At this point.
Well, Konohamaru might not be running past Mitsuki. Might just be running on his own, but... I can imagine Mitsuki having just a feeling. He's just gonna go.
Exactly.
So how's that gonna go? Because the second that Mitsuki sees Boruto dead or whatever, he's gonna go his Sage Mode Rage form. That's gonna be going all out, but then... The problem is, he just can't do anything against Jura.
Exactly, it's not Ryu for this, so...
This is not gonna happen.
Unless he teams up with Boruto or teams up with Kawaki or some shit. I don't know, but
unless he gets the craziest Dragon Ball amp of all time.
Maybe he just does what he did against Deepa. He just does one attack, surprises Jura, then takes Boruto and runs away, and he gets away so fast because he's actually insanely fast. I mean, honestly, if they just copy the Deepa scene, I'm okay with it.
Sure.
Like literally, just copy it. Jura's going for the kill. Mitsuki blitzes and saves Boruto. And then Jura's just like, what's this? And then he's just like, my parent told me to never use this power because of blah, 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 blah. But for Boruto, I'll use it. And then he does the attack and then just runs away. And then he's like dying. You gotta get saved. And that's how we get Orochimaru. Just copy the Deepa scene.
And then Jura says, wow, Mitsuki, you're even stronger than every Otsutsuki, including Urashiki. Whoa.
Exactly. Yeah. You're the strongest person I have ever seen. I want to fight you now.
David rushes right on over.
No, not to fight Jura, but to fight Mitsuki. Oh, okay, that's the best thing they could do. And you know what the worst part is? The best thing they could possibly do that's actually realistic is to just verbatim copy the anime. Oh, what do you know? He already did that with Mitsuki's conversation with Ada. Perfect. Do it again.
Oh, we are setting ourselves up so much just to be disappointed.
Oh, I know. When Mitsuki does nothing.
Through the roof. I mean, if Mitsuki at least just shows up, even if he gets his butt kicked, at least he's doing something. He's just being there, at least. Freaking cannon fodder getting in the way. But I'll take it.
I just want to see him drawn. But speaking of drawings, okay, I'm sure you're going to agree with this, but Jura's hands and pockets things is just ridiculous at this point. It's one thing to have Jura walk around Konoha with his hands in his pockets to show just how casual and unafraid he is, or even to dodge people's attacks and land some kicks with his hands still in his pockets to show how little he has to try. Killua does this in Hunter x Hunter when he's in the Hunter exam, and he's just casually beating the shit out of those three brothers.
The difference is Killua looks cool. Jura's a giant, and it looks goofy and ridiculous when he does it.
Exactly. But even more than that, it's just ridiculous to have him actively show and use his hands, like the panel of him doing the cross hand thing where he's like, oh, I like fighting strong people. And then he fights Boruto, and then rushes to put him back in his pockets for a second, takes him out to fight again, then rushes to put him back in. It's like he's desperately trying to pretend that he never took his hands out of his pockets in the first place. Like, is he trying to prove something? Let's go look at this stupid chapter.
I know. And then he takes him out to pick up the sword.
Exactly. Like, he takes him out multiple times. And it's just like, why are you desperately trying to get your hands in your pockets here? So, all right. He shows up. He's just being normal. Flies. Okay. Oh, probably got his hands in pockets here. Okay. All right. He's got his hands out. Then he puts his hands in his pockets for the conversation. Then this is a walk, takes him out. Probably put him back in his pockets as soon as he can.
Yep. By the end of the chapter.
I lost the headphone. 1 second.
He undoes Uzuhiko and just immediately puts him back in as he stands up.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be one thing if he was doing the Hidari trick or some other variant to where he has his hands through the claw marks, but he's just not doing that. Even then, I don't know if Jura's shredded pants even count as claw marks. Like, can he put it through, near the shredded part?
I'm guessing so. I mean, it's weird, but, his shirt is... So.
Yeah, but his shirt is from the top and bottom all the way through. His pants are just, why are his pants even shredded?
Yeah. I want to know the lore behind that. Yeah.
I mean, it does look like Shibai. I'll give him that.
It also looks like Ishiki / Jigen's ripped pants, like when Ishiki's first resurrected. Yeah. So I don't know, But Jura himself doesn't look like Shibai at all.
To be fair, the one panel we got of Shibai was so obscure of what his actual character design looks like with the lighting on his face or whatever.
I guess, but
hard to really even tell.
Jura doesn't have a beard. Or really long hair.
Yeah. Okay.
But
going back to this. So we could probably save the 17 numbered things for another time.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all like one long thing, I think.
Okay. Alright, did these.
Yeah. Again, if you want to move anything to the used topic tab, that's there.
I'm not worried about these ones.
Okay. We've done that bottom one. You can delete Immortals probably as well. Crazy. I don't know what that is. Yeah, you delete that.
That's Jigenzai.
Mm-hmm. At this point, we're just scrolling way out. So. Let's see what's up here.
Okay, we could talk about this without Joy for a minute.
Sure. I mean, do you want to talk about the Joy? Because we could, but...
Well, yes. But we can also talk about it without Joy, too.
Sure. Okay.
Now I'm curious what this is.
Some movie-level choreography right there.
Pain Boruto from supremacy to powerlessness.
Oh, I saw something. I don't know who said it. I'm guessing it was Troy. They said the Boruto versus Quirky fight, I think, was like the best fight in the entire franchise. Which would include Naruto.
Boruto versus Quirky? Which Boruto versus Quirky fight?
The Code Arc one. The best fight in the entire franchise, including Naruto.
No.
Number one fight, better than all of them. Any other fight. Like in what regard, bro? Name even one.
Okay, I want you to read this and tell me what you think.
Okay, zoom in. Okay. So, Pain / Boruto from supremacy to powerlessness. Pain is the god that sought to tame the Nine Tails in the hope of his infinite Okay, that's automatically wrong.
Ignoring that.
Which would inevitably destroy the world. That's also wrong, but he says in a sense, but whatever, that's up to interpretation. Everyone around...
In a sense, I think it's fine, but it's just not the infinite Suki.
I think it's also just wrong, but either way. Everyone around him seemingly being powerless as he stares down the last hope of the ninja world, Naruto. Until the Nine Tails and Naruto prevail, Pain is the powerless one now. Boruto sought to tame the Ten Tails in a sense in the hope of saving the world from destruction. Code is seemingly powerless against him as he stares down the last hope of the Otsutsuki will that was entrusted to him by Ishiki. Until again, the Ten Tails in Code prevailed, as he could not make it in time. Boruto is the powerless one now. Can't believe he's trying to make the parallel, bro.
Yeah, I could say, so where do you want to start with disagree?
You remember the soundtrack they used for Naruto raining hellfire down and Pain saying, "Oh, the moon, it's like nothing in comparison to Hagoromo, the sage of thick paths." And that music, bro, as Naruto undoes the seal like 10 years into the franchise.
Is gonna just let the Nine Tails out.
Yeah, you know, as opposed to like Boruto looking up at Jura or whatever.
Well, also, Pain wasn't powerless. Nagato still has the Rinnegan. And Boruto isn't powerless. They're just not powerless.
The idea I think he's saying is that Naruto is weaker than Pain, and then Pain beat up Naruto, and then Pain was weaker than the full power of the Nine Tails, so then the full power of the Nine Tails like gonna beat up them. Like, it was almost like a poetic irony. And similarly, Boruto's stronger than Code, who Boruto's then weaker than Jura.
Yeah.
And I would say, whereas technically, yes, it's a different opponent because Naruto is not the Nine Tails and Jura isn't Code. But like, that's like a completely different entity entirely. That's not even a fair comparison at all.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, but you can also just use this sort of thing with a lot of things, I feel like, so.
Exactly. Not the same. You can say they're both like world devastatingly high threats, but
Okay. Names of Boruto. Chapter 1 of Boruto Part 1 is his full name, Boruto Uzumaki, while Chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex only has Boruto, showing how Omnipotence is rid of him his name. Just like how Kawaki's name is only Kawaki, and swapped now to just Boruto while Kawaki gained the last name Uzumaki.
If anything, just say his name's Otsutsuki then. Boruto Otsutsuki's
Yeah, actually, yeah, good point. They call them Boruto Otsutsuki and Kawaki Otsutsuki now.
The age of Shinobi is ambiguous. These panels are made the same way because with Kawaki, it is his first big step into becoming the new Ishiki vessel and ending the era of Shinobi. He regains his karma, and after this is where the tone kind of changes. He becomes more powerful while also becoming far more ruthless while also trying to kill the Otsutsuki and Boruto, and protecting Naruto is his main priority. This is where Kawaki starts to become the true villain of the series. The panel shows this by it only showing his karma side, and Ishiki's dojutsu telling us that he is the second coming of Ishiki that will use their Otsutsuki powers to destroy them. The rest of the panel also is just darkness and smoke, which also adds to the dark shift his character took this chapter and beyond.
So, he didn't really address the Boruto panel.
Bruh.
Oh, it's he just continues, okay.
You're
Do I even want to read this?
I told you, let's wait for Troy.
Yeah, this is okay, but this isn't even the Troy thing that we're supposed to be looking at. Why didn't even bring me Troy? What are you doing with Love Island?
I'm so glad those people were clothed.
Anyway, so I take it you need to wrap this up now or something?
Yeah, probably something like that. Hey, if you want to give an outro, it's your stream anyways.
Once again, thank you, Ood, and I guess Kamui for having me on to discuss the Boruto's latest arc, which we have managed to compare how it compares to the part 2 of Naruto's Kazekage arc, and where that arc has managed to succeed, where the Boruto one has failed for the most part. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoys what everyone had to say for the last 8 hours, despite some of them are very intense arguments. From what I can tell, what was supposed to be perhaps maybe a simple stream about Boruto Chapter 22. So yeah, anyway, I am BlueStar Sailor, signing off.
I'm Oodie. I'm doing the same.
There you go.